Welcome to a meeting of your Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. Representing District 1, Harry Cohen. Representing District 2, Ken Hagan. Representing District 3, Gwen Myers. Representing District 4, Christine Miller. Representing District 5, Donna Cameron Cepeda. Representing District 6, Pat Kemp. Representing District 7, Joshua Wostel. The County Administrator is Bonnie Wise. The County Attorney is Christine Beck. Time is set aside at the beginning of each meeting for citizens to speak on any issue. So we have time for everyone. Speakers are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Today's meeting is brought to you with closed captioning by Hillsborough Television.
Good morning and welcome to the August 21st, 2024 regularly scheduled board meeting in the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. Would everyone please rise for the pledge and invocation given by our chaplain, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, we begin this day with thanksgiving and praise for who you are and your great love that you have for each of us. And we pray a special blessing for everyone that lives in Hillsborough County. We bless them. We pray for their spirit, soul, and body, that it is well with them. We pray for every county employee, and we pray for every county commissioner here that will be a blessing to our county. In your holy name, amen.
Well, good morning and welcome. Today is University of Tampa Spartans Day here at the Board of County Commissioners. And as a University of Tampa graduate and fan of the baseball program, I'm very pleased to present these next two commendations. With the following individuals, please join me here at the podium. We've got Coach Joe Urso, Coach Jose Jimenez, Skylar Gonzalez, Eli Thurman, Aiden Nolasco, and Maddox King. Well, it's a great honor for me to recognize a baseball program in our own backyard that is the nation's best, period. Numbers don't always tell the full story, but this is certainly the case with this one. The University of Tampa baseball team captured their 9th national championship with an 8-3 win over Angelo State University at the 2024 NCAA Division II National Championship in June at the USA National Training Complex in Cary, North Carolina. This equals the most ever won by a baseball team in the NCAA Division II history. This is a program steeped in tradition with some of the greatest players in NCAA history. In fact, a couple that I competed against many years ago, including Tino Martinez, Sam Militello, who's coach here. I think he's running a little late. He might join us here in a minute. And Ozzie Timmons, representing the Spartans. I'm immensely proud to present this commendation. First one of two, which reads, the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners is proud to give a standing ovation to the University of Tampa Spartans for winning the 2024 NCAA Division II Baseball Championship, the school's 9th national title in baseball, equaling the most in Division II history, a remarkable achievement. UT had 2 chances to win one game it needed to clinch the crown against Angelo State of California, the defending champion, in June in Cary, North Carolina. The Spartans only needed one. With Angelo State leading 3-1, UT seized control in the 6th inning, going on to win 8-3. Possessing a unique personality and leadership style from other great UT teams, the 2024 Spartans finished the season with an astonishing 52 wins, 4th most in program history, with only 8 losses. The 2024 national title ties UT with Florida Southern for the most in Division II history, 9, and is the Spartans' 6th in the 2000s. Far more than any other program this century. Further, the Spartans thwarted Angelo State's bid to win consecutive championships, which has only been done 6 times in the 51 years of the Division II baseball championship. And the Spartans are owner of 2 of those repeats in '92 and '93, and again in 2006 and 2007. The Board of County Commissioners of Hillsborough County, Florida, does hereby commend the University of Tampa Spartans for winning yet another national championship, a strong testament to the best baseball program in the nation, a dynasty in every sense, and wishes the team continued success. Awarded this 21st day of August 2024, and I'm pleased to present this first one to Coach Urso. Coach, congratulations on a phenomenal season to this exceptional team and their coaches. Now I'm going to present the second recognition to their outstanding leader and my friend, and then we'll give them all a chance to speak and take a couple of photos here at the end. The Spartans are a perennial national championship contender. Much of that success is a direct result of the brilliance of Coach Joe Urso. He is a hometown guy and hero. He has played or coached this game all his life. He is hands down the most accomplished active head coach in all of college baseball, and that is saying something. He's won more than 1,000 games, which is phenomenal. I could spend all day talking about his incredible achievements on the field and in the dugout. It is truly the stuff of legends, a living legend. I'm honored to read the following commendation. The Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners is proud to recognize Coach Urso of the University of Tampa, the best coach in college baseball, whose historic achievements also place him at the top of the all-time great coaches, professional and collegiate, in the Tampa Bay region and Florida. A Tampa native, Coach Urso's title-winning days date to 1988, when he helped lead Plant High School to the state baseball championship as a player. His tremendous success continued at the University of Tampa, where he was a 4-year starter at second base, twice named All-American, voted most valuable player of the Spartans national team, title team in '92, and named to the NCAA Division II all-time team in 1997. Since becoming the Spartans head coach in '01, Coach Urso has set the coaching bar to unprecedented heights, winning 6 national championships in his 24 seasons, including this past season, more than any other coach during his tenure. UT's all-time winningest baseball coach, his career record is an astonishing 1,007 with 287 losses and 1 tie, including a Division II record-winning percentage of .959 and a 47-2 season in 2014. Wow. Further, he has coached dozens of first-team All-Americans, National Gold Glove winners, and academic All-Americans, to name a few honors he helped his players achieve. The Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners hereby commend Coach Joe Urso for an illustrious career at the University of Tampa, for winning the 2024 National Championship, his selection as the unanimous 2024 National Coach of the Year for the NCAA Division II baseball, and wishes him many more victories at the helm of this powerhouse program. Again, awarded this 21st day of August 2024, and it's a real honor for me to present this to my good friend, Coach Urso. And Coach, please say a few words.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner Hagan and the entire Board of County Commissioners. This is real special for me, born and raised here in Hillsborough County. So to bring a national championship right back to our county means a lot to me, Coach Jose, and all of our players. School starts in about a week, so most of the guys will be arriving here soon. That's why they're not all here to represent us. But it was a special year. We started out in Houston at Minute Maid Park, playing right where the Astros are at, so the guys had a feel of being treated like big leaguers right away. We went 3-0 that weekend against all top 10 ranked opponents, so right away I knew we did have something special with this group, and was hoping to bring back that 9th national title to our university. The year was tremendous, bunch of great personalities. Being part of the university and getting 1,000 wins at the same university meant a lot to me where I graduated from. But the year just kept on with special moments. E.J. Cumbo, our best hitter last year, broke the NCAA Division II hit record for a career. Also, Skylar Gonzalez, our #1 pitcher, broke Coach Sam Militello's single season record. He ended up 16-0 and was named National Pitcher of the Year. So a special year for Skylar and the whole group. thank you all for having us, for recognizing us. It's a special day for UT.
This guy's a little shy here, but I can tell you, these guys are monsters. I mean, when I played, I was like this tall, and now these guys are enormous. So, guys, congratulations. We're extremely proud of you. And, Coach, thanks for everything you teach these men, not only on the field, but also some of life's greatest lessons off the field. You guys are making memories that last a lifetime, friendships that'll last a lifetime, and we're very proud of you, although we do expect to see here next year for the 10th championship as well. So no pressure, but expect to see you there. But congratulations, guys. We'll take a couple photos. Bonnie, I want to review the changes to the agenda.
Hold on, Mr. Chair. I have my light.
Oh,
Be recognized.
okay. Commissioner Myers?
Thank you. Good morning. At our August 7th meeting, we asked staff to bring back a report on the PACE program. I'd like to make a motion to hear from staff first on the PACE program, followed by agenda item F1, and then we go into board discussion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Myers to hear, I guess it was a staff item in advance of F1. And that's motion, Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Cohen. Any discussion? Commissioner Kemp?
Oops, I just want to clarify, and then go into discussion after hearing both presentations. Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, so please record your vote.
Mr. Chair?
Do you have a comment on this item?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Pursuant to Rule 12 of our Rules of Order under Hillsborough County's Board of County Commissioners, at this time, I believe it's appropriate, and I'll ask for a parliamentarian inquiry since it seems like we're jumping the gun, but we are on to item 4 of approval and deletion of items. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I will be making a substitute motion to postpone item F1 indefinitely. Mr. Chair, our rules of order and the entire point of Robert's rules is to promote a functioning and fair rule of orders and moving on the day's agendas. On August the 7th, I, at request of some of my colleagues, was graceful and allowed for a delay of my item for a continuance to the next board meeting for staff to come back and provide additional information. Unfortunately, under Rule 13 of our Rules of Order, the county administrator's duty, she felt it was appropriate to add my item as a staff report rather than simply continuing my item, which was agreed to in the motion that was put forward, which has allowed this other item to be unprecedented in my office's opinion, and we've reached out trying to find a point of time in which a commissioner brought forward an item to intentionally circumvent another commissioner's item from going forward, which at its core is against the entire point of our rules of order and of Robert's rules. So at this time, I motion to postpone indefinitely item F1 on the grounds that any arguments that are to be taken up or grievances about pace can simply be taken up at the time that my item is heard. And if they want to express their opinions, they have that opportunity to enter debate and win over 4 votes during that time. So that is my motion to postpone item F1 indefinitely.
Okay, so that's a substitute motion by, hold on, Commissioner Kemp, by Commissioner Wostel Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
And
Commissioner Kemp.
I would say that's out of order totally. A commissioner has any right to put an item here at any time and to put that item forward. That is the right as a commissioner that we have. So to do that and
Commissioner,
to,
he didn't mention F4, he mentioned F1. Oh, okay, your item, I'm sorry.
yes, my item. A commissioner has absolute right to put an item in place and to bring an item forward. That is our right as elected official commissioner. That's what we do. So there's no right or place for anyone to postpone an item of any other commissioner.
Rick, from a parliamentary position,
You can make a motion to postpone indefinitely on any item.
even a commissioner's item?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Any clarification on that, Commissioner Kemp?
And there's no waiver for this to have been, like, you have to have 5 votes, anything like that, to move forward on this?
No?
It's on the agenda.
They could have made a motion at any, even after debate has started. A motion to postpone indefinitely can be made.
And how many votes do they need?
4.
Okay, Commissioner Wilson, any other comment?
I would just simply say, as you know, as the chair, another commissioner can't claim that something is out of order. It is clearly in our Rule 12s of our orders, of our rules of order, which we set on, and you were on the board. You were actually on the panel with myself and Commissioner Owen at the time. We went through these. We all voted and agreed on them. And Robert's Rules of Order is very clear that a postpone indefinitely can happen at this time. And again, any of the arguments that and grievances that want to be brought forward can be brought forward during our normal debate. This is an additional item to try and circumvent another commissioner's item from moving forward. It's entirely appropriate, and I would appreciate everyone's support. Thank you.
Okay, so the substitute motion by Commissioner Wilson, second Commissioner Cameron Cepeda, is to postpone indefinitely item F1. All right. Please record.
Can I just say, too?
Commissioner Kemp, in closing.
Yes. In all of my time, I have never seen anything like this, and I feel it's anti-democratic and anti-informational and wrong.
Okay, please record your vote.
Motion carried 4-3. Commissioners Cohen, Kemp, and Myers voted no.
Okay, Bonnie, go back to the changes.
Okay, thank you. And just as a reminder for everybody, any commissioner can ask for a time certain for your item. So just let me know if that's what you so desire. Okay, item A5 has been deferred to September 4th. This is to approve and execute the agreement with Paget Swan Machinery for financial support for the redevelopment property in the Palm River redevelopment pilot project area. Item G2 has been deferred to a date to be determined. This is to receive a report regarding improving the development services permitting process. We have several items for time certain. Item D1 is at 10 o'clock. This is to conduct a public hearing to establish separate uniform rates for the various street lighting classifications for the 2024 tax year. Item D2, also at 10 o'clock. This is to conduct a public hearing and adopt a resolution that establishes the stormwater management non-ad valorem assessment rates for non-ad valorem assessment roll for the calendar year 2024. Item D3, also at 10 o'clock, is to conduct a public hearing to approve the fiscal year 2025 to 2029 HART Capital Improvement Program CIP list of projects funded by transportation impact fees per the interlocal agreement with HART. Item D4, also at 10, is to conduct a public hearing and adopt the solid waste rate resolution, which establishes the solid waste non-ad valorem disposal and collection assessment rates, other user fees and charges, and the solid waste disposal and collection rolls. Item B2 at 10:30 is to accept the PRC Foster Program report performed by the County Internal Auditor's Office. And then I guess item F1 has been deferred or eliminated. 11:45 a.m. is the recess for lunch.
I hear a motion to approve the
Move
changes.
for approval.
Motion, Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Wostel. And just one comment I want to make on G2 being deferred. This was an item that I initiated several months ago, and it was focused on commercial permitting process and and the lack of folks that bid on projects. And a big part of that is obviously is procurement, and that wasn't a part of this item, so that's why I asked for it to be deferred until that element can be can come forward with recommendations as well. So, okay, I've got a motion and a second to change the agenda. Please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
All right, going to the public comment portion of the agenda. The board welcomes comments from citizens on any issue or concern. Your opinions are valued in terms of providing valuable input to board members. At the same time, as requested, when you address the board, please do not direct comments at staff or the board members, but rather the issues. We set aside 45 minutes from public comment this morning. The chair will call on speakers by name in the order in which you have signed up. When you come to the microphone, please state your name, speak clearly into the microphone. First three speakers this morning are Matthew Choi, followed by Chris Peterson, and then Todd Josko. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning. Chair Hagan, good morning. Thank you. Oh, that's much better. Good morning, Vice Chair Myers and the entire Board of County Commissioners. My name is Matthew Choi, and I work as the Regional Director for Renew Financial, one of the 4 PACE providers here in the state of Florida. And I wanted to thank the board for taking the time to hear this important staff report and on tackling the PACE issue here in Hillsborough County. Firstly, I would like to bring everyone up to speed on a bit of the state of play here in Florida about residential PACE. As your staff will tell you during their staff report, Senate Bill 770, Improvements to Real Property, was passed by the Florida legislature and became law on July 1st of this year. The passage of that legislation fundamentally changed how our PACE operates in Florida, and it has spurred the reintroduction of PACE here in Hillsborough County and around the state as well. The new legislation strengthens consumer protections to ensure homeowners understand the financing and strengthens contractor oversight, as well as allows the use of RPACE for critical needs such as flood resiliency and wastewater management. The new law does include protection of home rule, new consumer protections that include limiting the total length of the assessment to 20 years or the useful life of the equipment. The property owner is current on all mortgage debt on the residential property, and the total annual payment for the financing does not exceed 10% of the homeowner's annual income, and that income needs to be verified by a third party. And this isn't a comprehensive list. I know you're going to hear about all these consumer protections from the staff report, but what this is it's a good faith olive branch from the industry to help create a PACE program that can benefit all homeowners. Finally, I'd like to close with saying that currently the average interest rate for PACE assessments here in Florida stands at 8.99%, a third of what unsecured loans and that can help more families afford what they need to do things like storm hardening. As everyone in this room knows, we are already in the throes of a fairly active hurricane season, and we just want to be good partners and help provide your constituents with all of the protections that they need. Again, Renew Financial and the PACE industry just wants to help to be a tool in the tool belt. If you have any questions, I'm of course happy to answer them.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Chris Peterson, followed by Todd Josko, and then Brooke Ward, who's virtual. Good morning, sir.
Thank you, Chair Hagan, Commissioners. Chris Peterson for 4 to 5 Financial. My comments are going to be similar to Mr. Choi's comments. PACE has made tremendous advances in the last 10 years, and I've been in this industry that whole time, and I'll tell you, we've seen a lot of positive change, specifically around SB 770. May be the most impactful legislation that has in the PACE's history. We have better learned how to prepare consumers for the nuances of home improvement lending and the importance of understanding all of the terms of the transaction. So some of these consumer protections, the industry now has oversight through the Auditor General's Office, which is obviously extremely important to have accountability. There is an ability to pay test as required by the law, as Mr. Choi explained. The industry is required to conduct a call with each applicant on a recorded line to review the terms of the financing agreement and to answer any questions they may have. These calls take 15, 20, sometimes 25 minutes. It's a wonderful opportunity for folks to flesh out any concerns that they may have, to really understand the program, and also reconcile how the contractor spoke about the program, which helps us to take action if appropriate. Maximum financing term from 30 to 20 years, maximum financing amount for 20% of the just value of the property. All of these consumer protections are really meant to strengthen this program, and they're meant to fill holes that we have found throughout our existence, right, throughout our administration of the program. PACE is limited to crucial home improvements such as new roofs, impact windows, doors, and AC units. We are not financing kitchen remodels or new bathrooms. These are not vanity improvements. They are critical improvements intended to help keep people insured and safe from weather-related events. These improvements are specifically included in the statute for the health and safety of Floridians. And the expansion of the program to include the mandated septic to sewer improvements and flood-related mitigation can also help with the major county issue on mitigating red tide. Property owners who have limited financing options are far more exposed to economic damage through the loss of or forced placement of homeowners insurance, or simply the damage from a weather event, than they are from using PACE. That is statistically accurate. Our interest rates are significantly lower than any options these borrowers have, such as personal loans, credit cards, or even HELOCs, depending on your lender. We fought hard in Tallahassee for these new consumer protections because it's the right thing to do. And it's important for all Florida homeowners to have viable financing options to protect themselves from the ever-present risk of hurricanes and floods, and to meet the expensive new statutory requirement to connect to public sewers or replace their existing septic tank. So we hope to see Hillsborough County adopt this new version of PACE. It's a PACE 2.0. It just enacted July 1st. We haven't really had a lot of time for folks who have existing issues to really understand how those existing issues have been solved legislatively. So this is a wonderful time to move forward. You can benefit from the learning curve of PACE and move forward. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Todd Josko. We have Brooke Ward is virtual, and then Rachel Hobbs. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Todd Josko on behalf of Renew Financial, speaking in support of PACE. There's been some wildly inaccurate information about PACE this past week, and I just want to set the record straight on a couple things. WFLA has done a series of stories this week about PACE, but every single story they've mistakenly confused the PACE program with the Florida PACE Funding Agency, FPFA, which is one of the 4 PACE finance districts. To be clear, Pasco County terminated their agreement with FPFA. They still have a PACE program. FLA has got that wrong every single story, and it's caused a lot of really unnecessary confusion. There's also been a gentleman that was on TV that said he lost his home due to PACE. He was one of our customers. He financed an air conditioning over 15 years, but paid the lien off entirely in full in 3 years, and the lien was released from his home. So I don't know why he lost his home. I don't know why he says he was confused by PACE, but a guy who pays off a 15-year loan in 3 years seems like he really understands consumer financing to me. The fact is that among the various PACE companies that are doing business in Florida, there's been tens, if not hundreds of thousands of successful PACE assessments done over the years. The PACE default rate is well below the default rates of any other type of consumer financing. Commissioner Cohen recently asked if people don't have good credit without PACE, what are they supposed to do if they need a new roof? There's not really good answers. A lot of them go to AMSCOT. A lot of them put them on credit cards. A lot of them just don't make the repairs, and then they can't get insurance. Those are all bad solutions. PACE fills a very needed role. Here's my ask of you today. I respectfully ask that you pass the PACE resolution before you. The resolution is a very benign document. It simply authorizes a PACE program in Hillsborough County. I also ask that you instruct staff to work on finalizing the interlocal agreements with the various PACE finance districts and bring those back to the board. In today's staff report, you'll see that they cite protections and language that needs to be added back in that was in the program in 2017. Add those back into the ILAs. I understand that the tax collector has some language that she'd like to have added. Add that into the ILAs. It takes time to get the ILAs right, and all parties need to be involved. At the end of the day, if a PACE company doesn't agree with the restrictions that you set forth, they don't have to participate in the program. Similarly, if the board doesn't want a particular PACE provider in the program, they don't have to let him in the program. Y'all have all the cards and you make all the decisions. So again, respectfully, if you could pass the PACE resolution today and instruct staff to work on the ILAs with the PACE providers. I want to thank you. I know that this has been a spirited debate, to say the least, and there's been a lot of confusion and miscommunication. I appreciate your willingness to listen and to do the right thing. Thank you for all you do in Hillsborough County.
Excuse me. I'd just like to say no spirited debate hasn't been allowed.
Okay. Brooke Ward, are you on the line?
Good morning. This is Brooke Ward. I am the
morning.
Senior Florida Organizer with Food and Water Watch. Good morning. I'm also a member of the Hillsborough Affordable Energy Coalition. Thank you for providing this opportunity to make comment virtually. As the last speaker said, this body, you hold all the cards and you make all of the decisions. And that's why it's so important to take care when you are making a decision. There is a reason that Hillsborough County discontinued the PACE program several years ago. It was highly predatory, and the new state regulations do not go far enough to protect our most vulnerable community members. That is why it's necessary to suspend consideration of the PACE program until the Federal Truth in Lending Act regulations are in place. Let's make sure our folks are protected. If you've ever talked to anybody that's been victimized by PACE, you will hear tales of grandmothers losing their homes and families put on the street. The real problem here is that people don't understand what they are signing on to, and that a loan actually attaches to their home. And a phone call is not adequate for protecting consumers, especially when you're securing 20% of a home's value into that loan. It's still problematic. So why are we rushing to start this program back up when we could make it even better? I understand that we want people to be able to make upgrades to their home, but why can't we require the PACE approval to be undertaken by way of an ordinance, have a public hearing, hear from folks in the community? Any Hillsborough PACE program must include robust consumer protections, and that's been recommended by the National Consumer Law Center. If you look at which lobbyists have been pushing for this program and those who stand here today in support of hastily moving it forward, you will see a line of financiers whose primary focus is making money off of vulnerable families and not promoting the welfare of those families. This is a social justice issue, and there's no reason for the county to bring back this program without further protections nationally and locally. And I'm also here today to make a request of each commissioner. The PSC will be deliberating on PECO's rate case next week. Last month, Duke Energy made grand gesture to reduce requested rate increase by nearly 75% and add life-saving heat disconnection policy. PECO has failed to make any concessions to help struggling families, so it would be great if each commissioner on the board could send a public comment individually to the PSC with your opinions on the pending PECO rate case. So thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. Next three speakers, Rachel Hobbs, followed by Mark Shuffle, and then Anthony Hamarillo. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Hobbs, and I represent Home Run Financing. We're one of the third-party PACE program administrators. I wanted to thank county staff for their work on updating you on the new statewide legislation, and to the chair and commissioners for your consideration of the program. Home Run Financing and the other third-party program administrators recognize that the PACE program has faced issues in the past, and we have worked hard to combat these issues, including by working closely with state legislators to pass SB 770, which took effect just last month and includes enhanced consumer protections. One major change, as you've heard, is in limiting the term of PACE-financed improvements to 20 years. SB 770 requires an ability to pay test to determine if an applicant can afford the financing. The total estimated annual payment may not exceed 10% of the property owner's annual income. And as you've heard, this has to be confirmed not solely by the homeowner's statement. Written disclosures are prescribed with a long list of items that must be included. These include such details as the total estimated annual costs, including program fees, total estimated average monthly amount that they should save in order to make the final annual payment, estimated due date of first annual payment, and importantly, a disclosure that if the property owner sells or refinances the property, they may be required to pay off the full amount owed. Many of these have to be individually acknowledged by the property owner. Additionally, a recorded confirmation of terms phone call was expressly laid out to further ensure that applicants understand the terms of the financing. Disbursements of final payment to the qualifying home improvement contractor may not be made until work has been completed, including that the final permit, if applicable, has been obtained. Contractor oversight is further enhanced, and SB 770 also gives State Auditor General oversight of PACE administrators and requires regular audits. I urge you to recognize the considered and thorough work that state legislators undertook to pass SB 770 and to allow PACE as an option for your homeowners going forward, recognizing that the provisions and consumer protections, including in SB 770, will make a meaningful difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Schaefer. Good morning.
Morning. Chair Hagan, Commissioners, thank you. Mark Scheffel, I'm with Y Green Energy Fund, also operating as a finance company in the property assessed arena. Also want to add my voice to the chorus of thank you for taking this important issue on, Mr. Rostel, for leading the charge on this. PACE is property assessed financing is a very unique and specialized product. It's been around significant amount of time. The legislature's original enabling legislation was back in 2010. What you're hearing talked about is the first significant rewrite of that law since that time. All of the negativity that you hear about PACE, we are all aware of. Your legislature is aware of. That's why SB 770 was so critical. You take on this vote at a unique time when there continues to be an insurance crisis in Florida. There continues to be a constant threat of hurricane and the need for your constituencies to prepare for hurricane preparedness, which is really primarily what PACE does in your county and throughout the state. And then, of course, the third item unique is the passage of 770. We all worked extremely hard. The group of stakeholders that were at the Capitol over the last number of years and all culminating in the passage of 770 is vast. Florida Association of Counties, a number of groups were heavily engaged in this, all talking about all the different things. And what came out was addressing all the things that we're talking about: robust consumer protections, contractor oversight, a cementing of local control. What's before you today is the initial step of adopting a property assessed program. Then the work begins, and as has been said, that's when you assign it to staff to work on the ILAs, the individual agreements with the companies, and that's where this program can and should be a uniquely Hillsborough program. That's where you get to exercise your independence and adopt. That's the whole point of local control. So in short, appreciate you taking this up. It is important. And again, I would encourage you to take into account the fact that there have been all of these robust work done on this program that has culminated in SB 770, and appreciate your positive vote on this program. Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony Girillo. Good morning.
Good morning. Am I close enough? Good morning, members of the County Commission. I'm here today representing ProTech. ProTech has been...
Can you state your name, please?
I'm sorry?
For the record. Could you state
Anthony
your name?
Jaramillo.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here representing ProTech. ProTech has been serving Hillsborough County for 5 years, and we have a team of 31 team members that have been tirelessly assisting our community. Florida brings top of mind how incredible or how much the sun in Florida not only provides great time for families, but it also has a huge effect on our comfort. And I know most Floridians, when they're not outside, they're indoors, seeking refuge. The issue that we're seeing is when the AC breaks, not only does your temperature become extremely uncomfortable inside your home, but you also have lost the ability to have comfort inside your home. What we're seeing today more and more is that family members are struggling to pay not only for repairs and replacements, but they're also struggling to get financing approved on their products. For us, we see that PACE provides our neighbors a critical solution for those who can't afford to come out of pocket on all these repairs and replacements. And unlike credit cards that are north of 18%, we found them to be a lot more affordable. In short, by supporting PACE, you're providing an affordable, competitive financing option that ensures every family in Hillsborough County can keep their homes cool and safe, and your decision will have a direct and positive impact on the well-being of our neighbors and constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. And Antonio Toro. Good morning.
Good morning. Honorable members of the County Commission, I'm here today representing Next Dimension Roofing, a local business that has proudly served Hillsborough County for 10 years, employing over 80 hardworking individuals. Every day we meet homeowners who are facing urgent, sometimes desperate situations, family living under roofs that are leaking with every rainstorm, threatening further damage to their homes and their well-being. These are not isolated cases. These are remedy for many of your local residents. And with inflation continuing to drive up costs across the board, the financial burden on these families is heavier than ever. We have a significant amount of price increases from the roofing distribution companies since 2020. And the PACE program is a really important solution. It helps families pay their new roof they need without having to come up with all the money up front. We've seen it make a big difference for families who didn't know how they were going to fix their roofs. Without PACE, many of them would be in serious trouble. We are asking you to welcome the PACE program to our community. Our neighbors need it right now to keep their homes safe and dry and provide them the peace of mind they deserve. Your decision will help a lot of families who are counting on you. Let's make sure everyone in Hillsborough County can get help they need to fix their roofs. Thank you so much. God bless you all, and may God continue to bless our county.
And sir, can you state your name for the record?
Antonio Toro.
All right, thank you. Last two speakers, Denise Herndon and then Gretchen Hoke. Is Ms. Herndon here? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Denise Herndon. In 9 days, I'll be in my property 25 years. I pray that somebody in the Donald Trump team can hear this and contact him, because I believe I can help prove that he's not involved in these 34 or so felonies that he's being charged with. In '96, my son built a Pokemon website, and Jeff Bezos found my son. I spoke to him on the phone, but he told me his name was Jeff Belarzio. He wanted me to invest $50,000 in Amazon. In 2002, when my son got caught hacking into computers, I found out this man that wanted me to invest in this business was in the dark web. In July of 2020, my son said, "Do you remember my dark web man?" And I said, "Yes." He goes, "He's going to help me with my prosecution of pedophiles, but right now a lot of things are going on. Everybody at the top doesn't know everything." Charlene Hammond was my son's school bus driver in '96, and my son came to me and asked if he could take candy from his school bus driver. Then my son's in a single man's house who turned out to be a pedophile. Charlene Hammond moved next door to me, and 10 years later, I have this document here that Hillsborough County has been hacked into. This is dated July 14th. All this hacking in this data breach is just a back door for the dark web. The dark web is nonpartisan. I have this document here that I found out when you county commissioners were able to remove the swell from the utility easement. This document here is not accurate. Betty, Mrs. Jean Munger, she was my best friend. She told me for many years that the lady wanted next in front of me that I was stealing her property. It was a utility easement on my survey. I don't have that survey any longer. It was stolen from me. This is what turned into a right-of-way. It was, when I first saw the right-of-way, it only was up to here. Now, it's down to here. It's a T. And the county records show that was in '05 that it turned into, it was sold as a right-of-way from the other document that I showed you that was falsified. Shirlene Hammond, this is the highlighted property, is the one that she had wanted. I'm about ready to run out of time, but bottom line is the woman that has my property next door to me now, this is not an actual sale, and I don't believe Wayne Hammond is involved in this.
Thank you, Ms. Herndon. Last speaker this morning, Gretchen Hoke. Good morning.
My name is Gretchen Hoke. I am Executive Director of Rain Frog Ranch, a nonprofit in eastern Hillsborough County. We're an equine therapy facility and wildlife habitat, focusing our efforts on educating the youth and others on conservation education and coexistence with wild Florida. I stand before you today with a plea for a shift in our priorities. It's time we take a step back and reassess where our focus lies. We must acknowledge the pressing issues facing our community, especially our children here in Hillsborough County, the 7th largest school district in the nation. We need to focus on preparing our youth for life. Hillsborough County is witnessing a troubling trend. The majority of our farmers are over the age of 65. We're losing a generation of farmers and youth interested in agricultural fields, and this is a crisis that demands our immediate attention. As a 7th-generation Floridian, my elders and I have seen the decline in agriculture in our area, and let me remind the board that it is okay to issue a building moratorium on Hillsborough County until we can catch up with our infrastructure, and let us take that time to focus on what is truly important and how we can make a positive difference in our community and ultimately the state of Florida. The community also wants there to be more of a focus on our incredible ELAP program and for Hillsborough County to acquire green spaces before they're gone, as well as agricultural lands. Let us think outside the box and adopt a forward-thinking approach. I'm proposing an idea of Turkey Creek Middle School being transformed into an agricultural magnet school. Imagine the possibilities. By focusing on agriculture education, we not only address the critical need to reignite interest in farming, but also equip our students with invaluable skills for their future. They'll learn about sustainability, food production, and the importance of connecting with nature, and so much more. This isn't just about preserving a tradition, it's about preparing our youth for the challenges ahead. Let us seize this opportunity to be bold, to be innovative, and to invest in a future where agriculture thrives once more in eastern Hillsborough County. We are the winter strawberry capital of the world with endless agriculture opportunities. Turkey Creek Middle, it has the Hillsborough County Fairgrounds, Strawberry Festival Grounds, State Fairgrounds, and multiple individuals in agriculture steps away that would be happy to help with this. Did you know that when STEM education was initially being researched, developers considered expanding STEM to science, technology, engineering, agriculture, and mathematics, STEAM? However, at that time, agriculture education was not as accessible as it is currently today. With educational programs today, it would be simple additions to a curriculum to take agriculture a step further. I am here to facilitate communication with professionals in agriculture, conservation, and sustainable planning, like the encouraging response I received from Dr. Thomas Hochter, in which I provided you with a copy, as well as the map you see on the screen showing most of Hillsborough County's ag land unprotected from development. I leave you all with two things. The first is a Native American proverb said by Sitting Bull: let us put our minds together and see what life we can make for our children. And the second from the Bible, Proverbs 22:6.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. All right, that closes the public comment portion of the agenda. Can we have a motion to approve the consent?
Move for approval. Second.
Motion, Commissioner Myers, second, Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote on the consent agenda.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay. Bonnie, first item.
Yes, we have some time before 10 o'clock, time certain, so we can go to the regular agenda. It's item B1. This is the purchase of a conservation easement within the Lower Green Swamp Preserve Edition. Excuse me, and Forrest is here to present this item.
Good morning, Forrest.
Good morning, Commissioners. Forrest Turbeville, Director, Conservation Environmental Lands Management. The item before you today is comprised of 4 separate requests. The first is to request your approval of a contract for sale and purchase of a conservation easement in the amount of $4,900,000 with Melinda II Cantrell and Douglas Cantrell to acquire a deed of perpetual conservation easement over 935.5 acres located within the Lower Green Swamp Preserve Addition ELAP site. The second request is to approve and execute the deed of perpetual conservation easement, which will then be held in escrow until closing. The third is to adopt a resolution determining that the easement is qualified for acquisition through the ELAP program in accordance with County Ordinance 08-16 and Resolution number 9-128. And the final request is to authorize the Director of Conservation and Environmental Lands Management to execute all documents required for closing and any extensions of timeframes as provided in the contract. The negotiated purchase price of this conservation easement is less than the average of the two reported appraisals. The total estimated acquisition costs are $4,975,000, which will be funded with available proceeds from the county's ELAP general obligation bonds that were issued on August 9th, 2023. And if this item is approved, it will be the county's first successful transaction to acquire a conservation easement using the ELAP less than fee acquisition policy. And we hope to have many more of these moving forward. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Wostel?
I just wanted to say thank you, and that $5,200 an acre is extremely palatable, so good work. And and I don't see anybody else, so I'll just move for approval.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve B1 by Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Myers. No comments, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thanks, Forrest.
Thank you. The next three items are Commissioner Westel's items. Item F2 for the first one. I'm trying to give you a minute to gather your things there.
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I guess there's confusion. I don't know why there was confusion on this one. I mean, it's in the summary. All that we're doing is that part of our policy as the board is, in order for us to see a draft resolution, at least 4 of us have to agree, because it can be a lot of work to make sure that we're not wasting man hours having staff draft resolutions that the board isn't even interested in hearing more about. So this is not about approving a draft resolution. This is just about getting an amendment to our old ordinances that move in line with the new constitutional state changes for, and I believe that there was a typo. It's not 88-37. I believe that it's 88-17. Is that correct?
I think it might be the reverse. It's 88-37, and
Yeah.
there was one typo in the background for 88-17.
Yeah, the challenge is that our Municode system, it seems to have piecemealed some of these much older ordinances that have been absorbed into codes. But there was a state constitutional amendment that was done a couple of years ago that that limits the time frame, or extends rather the time frame from 2 years to 6 years, of which an elected official can come back and lobby that elected body. And then we had one other needed change, because we had a special county charter amendment of the county's internal auditor, which is unique to Hillsborough County, that is not currently covered in this old ordinance. So that's why we needed to actually make it a change instead of just saying that we're going to adhere to the state's policy. Is that right? Because we have to physically add the county internal auditor.
If that's the board's desire to include the internal auditor, then the only way to do that is to amend the ordinance.
Yep. So all that this is a motion to instruct the county attorney to draft a resolution. We're not approving a resolution today, for us to review that amends our ordinances to extend the new state charter constitutional amendment from 2 years of lobbying to 6 years of lobbying, and to include the county internal or auditor in our ordinance. Well, that's a mouthful, sorry. So that is my motion.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Wostel. Or a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. To just so I understand, this is making our ordinance consistent with the state law, and at the end of the day, the state law takes precedence anyway. Is that accurate?
You're absolutely correct, Mr. Chair. That if all we were doing is making it consistent, we could put a note in Muni Code, but I think the other stated reason to include the internal auditor is not something that can be done short of an ordinance amendment. So if that's important to the board, then that's what it would require.
Okay, so we've got a motion by Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Next item.
The next item is Commissioner Westel's item F3 regarding an additional member to the HART board.
Yep, so we went through the HART's charter, and Hillsborough County government has been shorted a representative on that board for a number of years now. There was a population kicker, which we exceeded a while back. I think it was 950,000 or 1 million, either way. The unincorporated area is well north of 1 million people at this point, which entitles us to another representative. So I motion to direct staff to advertise over a 2-week period a citizen advertisement representative for the HART board, which I believe can be brought back by the September 18th board meeting, which would meet all of her requirements.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. Commissioner Kemp.
Yes, I'd like to make a substitute motion. While I agree that we have the population growth, to have another representative on the board, we really should have a commissioner do that. And we've had lots of commissioners say that they wanted to do that service, but have not been put there. But more importantly, it's really the responsibility of an elected person who's accountable to the community and is held accountable for what they do on HART. It's also someone who is more informed with government and processes and budgets and totally, accountable for looking at that. I just think I'll make a substitute motion that we instead do a 5th representative from the Board of County Commissioners, which is what we do on the TPO as well.
Okay, we have a substitute motion, Commissioner Kemp. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Myers. Rick, you want to make a comment?
I guess it doesn't apply to the substitute, but if Commissioner Wostel's motion, we would also have to waive the policy.
Okay. All right, thank you. Commissioner Wostel.
Thank you. We only have 5 members on TPO because of statutory requirements. The only reason that we currently even have the amount of elected officials on HART is because of special changes that this board made, I believe, when Commissioner Miller, not you, Commissioner Les Miller was on this board for us to add an additional elected official. It was citizens before. I would just briefly comment. I mean, I was watching the commissioner's outbursts to one of our speakers in the audience earlier, and it reminded me of that same commissioner's outburst when I was just a citizen in here in 2021, when this Board of County Commissioners preempted citizens from coming in and speaking for 20 months after trying to institute heavy-handed lockdowns on this county and curfews, and by simply me challenging her when she responded and said that I was wrong to a friendly debate, that she used our deputies to physically remove me from this boardroom. And the point of me saying that is for the claim to be that elected officials are some way superior to regular citizens to go and sit on these boards, I think is laughable on that foundation itself. And I believe that we just went through a state APAGA study where, make no mistake, HART was going to be closed by the state. It was going to be shut down and started anew. And instead of that, they graciously put forward an APAGA study. I believe it was Representative McClure that put that forward. And part of that APAGA study found in my notes, they added in there correctly that one of the biggest problems with HART is that we have so many politicians on that board stumping for political gain, which is hurting and hurting the people that are most disenfranchised in our county. So for us to go and add another elected official would be in direct conflict of the state's APAGA study, and it might further promote them to go ahead and shut down the organization. So I would just caution us of adding another elected official for that reason alone. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Cohen?
I think I'll let Commissioner Kemp go ahead.
Commissioner Kemp?
Yeah. And I'll just respond that there's, full of misinformation. There's never been any personal attacks ever. That's just ridiculous. But in terms of HART, we do need elected, accountable members. They are better informed, and it's misinformation about the APAGA report as well. For one thing, the report, HART came out shining in that report by all accounts. That's why nothing was done. And the state has, if they wanted to shut down HART, they could have tried for the last decade. They've never done that. They've never done that. HART operates on a charter as well as a statutory as well as statutorily, but as well as a charter approved by the citizens of Hillsborough County. That's why it's really important that it is elected officials that are also accountable to the citizens of Hillsborough County in terms of the management of HART.
Commissioner Cohen?
I actually think that it's fine for the board to appoint someone. I think 4 people on our board, on the HART board, is sufficient, and that perhaps we could actually appoint someone that could bring some fresh perspective, that knows something about transportation outside of this realm to it. I don't have a problem with that. So I'm not going to support the substitute. However, I would like to suggest to the maker of the motion that rather than waive the policy and make this appointment right before the election, that we consider just simply making the appointment after the election. It'll only be a couple more weeks, and to me, the rule that we don't do it right at election time is probably a good one, and I don't really see what the issue would be in holding off. So I just wanted to suggest that.
Commissioner Wostel?
I would just say I have almost the 173-page APAGA study memorized. I read it thoroughly, and it directly says in there that there's a recommendation to have a reduced amount of elected officials on there. And I guess, can we do the advertisement now and then appoint afterwards, or because then we would have to wait. The person would not end up getting appointed until January, and it's just that much more time of Hillsborough County. We've already been shorted years because the HART board didn't execute their duties to give us our elected officials. We've already been disenfranchised for years without additional representation. So should we allow it to go all the way into January is why I believe that it's a good point for on this one. On the reason for the rule change, Commissioner Miller, this happened right before you got here, is that we got in here and the previous board had stacked in, by the way that they had policy, all these representatives that we might not have been okay with, but they're extended out until 2025. But this is a different situation, in my opinion, where we've been being shorted for several years. And that's why I believe that we should move forward with gaining representation right now. So I'll just leave it there, and I'll appreciate support on the motion. Thank you.
Before I recognize Commissioner Kemp again, I don't see any reason why we can't advertise now and make the appointment first meeting after November. There's no reason why we can't do that, is there? If Commissioner Wilson's okay with that. And one other thing I'll point out along the lines of what Commissioner Wilson said, previous boards also cherry-picked boards and changed our processes by allowing 2 boards, TPO and HART, to be voted on first in advance of, and so they created a new procedure in order to essentially cherry pick to get members they wanted. So my point is, that was the only gamesmanship that you referenced that were done in other ways as well. Commissioner Kemp, then Commissioner Myers, so I'm going to vote.
I'll just say for the record, so everyone understands, we have 4 board members on, we have 3 already community members. It's not as if there's not already community representation. So this would make 4 community members. I'd also like to say, early on, both the charter, and by the way, the 3 years is statutorily required. That's not something, in fact, they tried to change that in terms of when someone's elected, that they're on there for 3 years. While we changed that with other boards or made some other arrangements, that is statutory. That is not something that this board can control. And finally, back in 83 or 80, when these were created, both the charter and statute talks about appointing a new board member for the, first of all, 1 board member per each statutory unit. So that's whether it's the unincorporated county, Temple Terrace, which is a member in Tampa. 1, they already get an automatic board member. 2 state appointees. But then they get an additional member for the better half of $150,000. So as we've grown, the board has grown totally unwieldy. And so now I think it's up to 16 members, and it is a, you know, it keeps growing because none of that changes as we grow, and it has grown tremendously from the time, you know, that it was first initiated. And it's very, very difficult to work, you know, in that board. To have a board that large, I think, is not optimum. But that's what we have in the statute and in the charter. But I very strongly think that we should have someone from this board do an additional position of an elected that is, again, accountable and regular and just understands the processes of government.
Commissioner Myers.
And they are elected. They are elected by the people, so they are accountable. So this whole thing that community members somehow are more accountable. I mean, we can get lobbyists in there, people with all kinds of personal interests, all kinds of those issues, rather than someone who can be removed if they by the voters if they're unhappy.
All right, Commissioner Myers, and we're going to vote.
Okay, thank you. I do agree with advertising now and then appoint the person, because we are in not 90 days of an election, and so that we could appoint that person in November, or the first board meeting in December.
Okay, so the substitute motion by Commissioner Kemp to, for a commissioner to be the additional appointee, and that was a second by Commissioner Myers. Again, substitute motion. Please record your vote.
Motion failed 6-1. Sorry, 1-6. Commissioners Hagan, Cameron Cepeda, Cohen, Miller, Myers, and Wostel voted no.
All right, back to the original motion by Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. That's to advertise for an additional appointee to the board, and which we'll vote on first meeting after November election. Commissioner Wostel?
I have to motion to waive the rules.
Oh, that's right.
He's just reminding me.
Yep. Can that be included in the motion, or does that have to be separate?
To additionally waive the rule, to amend the original motion to also waive the rules,
okay.
just to advertise.
All right, motion Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-1. Commissioner Kemp voted no.
Okay, Bonnie, got a first time certain?
Our first time certain is item D1. This is to have a public hearing regarding the street lighting classifications for the 2024 tax year. And Josh Bellotti will take us through this item. This is a public hearing. Nobody has signed up yet to speak.
Good morning, Josh.
Good morning, Commissioners. Josh Bellotti, Engineering and Operations Department. This is a public hearing to establish the annual rates and adopt the non-ad valorem assessment for the 2024 tax year for the county's residential street lighting special purpose district. Some quick background, this is a voluntary program with nearly 800 street lighting districts. The street lighting equipment and service is provided by TECO. The county's program is essentially a pass-through service in which the county pays the monthly bills directly to TECO and then collects revenue from residents annually through a non-ad valorem tax assessment, which appears like this on the annual tax bill. The street lighting program contains 45 different rate classifications based on the type of lighting equipment selected, which can be standard wood or concrete poles, or a variety of different types of premium decorative lighting. The rates are also adjusted as TECO completes their planned conversions to LED lighting. The county is required to hold 2 public hearings each year for street lighting, one in the summer to set the rates for the upcoming tax year, which is what we're doing today, and the second held later in the year is to make any modifications or changes to the street lighting districts. As this is a pass-through program, the county's rates are largely dictated by those set by TECO. The county does have a rate study currently underway, and we plan to bring the results and recommendations from that back to the board for consideration with the rates for next year. So to summarize, the purpose of this public hearing is for the board to establish the separate uniform rates for the various street lighting classifications and to adopt the non-ad valorem assessment for the 2024 tax year. There are no general rate increases proposed for this year, as it's a continuation of the rates that were set last year. The county mailed written notices on June 30th to 1,617 property owners who are receiving residential street lighting service for the first time or are receiving an increase as part of TECO's LED conversion program. This public hearing was duly advertised in the Tampa Bay Times on July 24th. Those notices state that property owners have the right to file written objections. To date, Public Works has received no written objections to the 2024 street lighting assessment. This concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. This is a public hearing.
All right, thanks, Josh. This public hearing, anyone like to speak to this item? Commissioner Woolstone?
Thanks. I just wanted to, Mr. Bellotti and I, and also myself and TECO have gone through this. There's a lot of folks with heartburn that don't understand that we are simply a pass-through. This is not us levying these communities. I've made my grievances known to TECO that some of these programs profiteer, especially Commissioner Hagan in your district and the Carrollwood district. There's some very old, and TECO did not refute this, dilapidated painted light poles that they're getting charged a super premium lease amount on, and those communities have been made aware on how to reduce that impact, or if they do want the more expensive light poles, how to communicate with TECO to get them more beautified. But this is a voluntary program that the HOAs, CDDs, whatever, enter into. So I'll move for approval.
Okay, motion to approve Commissioner Woolstone, second Commissioner Cohen. No other comments, please record your vote. D1.
Motion carried 7-0.
D2.
And D2, and it's going to be the Josh show for a couple of these items. This one is for the stormwater management non-ad valorem assessment rates.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners. This is the annual public hearing to set the stormwater non-ad valorem assessment rates and the assessment roll for calendar year 2024. It's annual requirement to hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution that establishes the stormwater rates for the calendar year. Again, some brief background. The county's stormwater assessment is established by ordinance and is levied over 362,000 developed parcels. Revenues from this assessment go towards maintaining the county's vast stormwater infrastructure, which includes 15 million feet of stormwater pipes and ditches, more than 3,000 stormwater ponds, 40,000 drainage structures, and 40 stormwater pumping stations. The stormwater assessment rates are tiered based on the amount of impervious area, and they appear as a non-ad valorem assessment on the property tax bill. Over the years, the stormwater assessment has undergone some changes. For many years after its inception, it was a flat rate across the board. In 2019, the board adopted a tiered rate structure for residential parcels based on the amount of impervious area. At that time, the board also approved a 5-year plan of incremental increases up to a maximum set amount. Those increases were then postponed by the board in subsequent years due to financial hardships and were resumed in 2022. Now that the 5 years have passed, the current rates, which were adopted last year for 2023, are proposed to continue unchanged for this year, 2024. So in summary, the stormwater assessment rates that are being proposed today and contained in the resolution in your backup material include no rate increases from the previous year. The average annual assessment remains at $86.49 for the year. Oh, excuse me. Written notices were mailed on June 30th to 5,538 property owners that will either receive the assessment for the first time or have it modified due to property modifications. The public hearing was duly noticed in the Tampa Bay Times on July 21st. Notices state that property owners have the right to file written objections. To date, Public Works has received one written objection to the 2024 stormwater assessment. Also a note that the county does have a rate study currently in progress for the stormwater program as well, and we plan to bring those results and recommendations from the study back to the board for consideration with the rates for next year. This concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have at the public hearing.
All right, thanks. That's public hearing. Anyone want to speak to this item? Commissioner Wolstrom?
Thank you. Mr. Bellotti, this is a very timely item just because of what happened in Sarasota. Do we believe that we're in a better, I saw that I believe Pinellas County or City of Clearwater, one of the two is in fact like doubling their stormwater assessments right now. I think I read a report. Do we feel like Hillsborough County is kind of ahead of a game on what unfortunately happened in those other counties? I mean, the pictures are pretty awful. So do we believe that these rates are keeping us ahead of the ball, or?
I'm not sure exactly the details from the other counties. I mean, I do know that we conducted a rate study 5 years ago, and the board made the decision based on the information provided in that study to make some changes to our stormwater assessment, to raise some of the rates and to plan, continued phased increases over that time. What we are doing now is going back and having another updated assessment with the rate study that's underway right now. And so I wouldn't want to make any judgments about that until we get the full report and results from that. But I know that once we do, we'll do a presentation and present all that information to the board with whatever recommendations come out of it.
Okay, so the work is being done. All right, I'll move for approval.
Okay, we got a motion to approve Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote. D2.
Motion carried 7-0.
D3.
Okay, Josh, one more public hearing for you. This is for the HART Capital Improvement Program for 2025 to 2029.
All right, thank you. Again, this is a public hearing to approve the FY 25 through 29 HART Capital Improvement Program list of projects funded by transportation impact fees, and to appropriate up to $97,850.75 in transportation impact fees over the next 5 years, subject to actual collections. The impact fee ordinance allows for transportation impact fees to be utilized for eligible HART capital improvements through the interlocal agreement, which defines the process. As you know, since transportation impact fees are gradually being replaced by mobility fees, the actual amount of impact fees collected will depend on the number of projects still subject to them. The impact fees are not eligible for operating or maintenance expenses, only for eligible capital expenditures. The agenda backup includes HART's impact fee justification report as supporting documentation of compliance with eligibility. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have, and representatives from HART are here as well. This is a public hearing.
All right, this public hearing. Anyone like to speak to the item? No, can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion, Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote on D3.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, D4.
Okay, thank you. We have one more public hearing. This is to conduct a public hearing on the solid waste non-ad valorem disposal and collection assessment rates. And this is the public hearing that was continued from the last board meeting. And Damien is going to take us through and give us a brief presentation, or not quite as brief as Josh's presentations on this item. Some of this information will be redundant from the solid waste budget workshop that we had earlier this year, this spring. Commissioner Miller, you were not here for that, so some of this may be new for you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to provide some additional options for you on the increase of the proposed solid waste assessment rate. I will tell you that we still believe that the $40.39 increase for residential unit still is the most appropriate increase at this time, but we have provided 4 other options for your consideration. And we make that recommendation based on the revenues and expenses of the system, the capital improvements that are needed, as well as the bond documents and bond covenants that are outlined in the contracts that you have, as well as the hauler contracts that you all have previously approved. So with that, I'll turn it over to Damien. I was trying to give him a little time to get his PowerPoint up to date there. And this is the public hearing. There has not been anyone signed up to speak at this time.
Good morning, Commissioners. If you just bear with me a minute, please.
There's going to be a while. We're going to take up the next item.
Why don't we go ahead and do that?
Okay. You guys continue working, and we'll take it the next item. Bonnie?
We do have Melinda here for your 10:30, if you'd like to waive the rules and hear that regarding the pet resources item.
Sure.
Okay, very good.
Do we have a motion to waive the rules with Commissioner Wolstel, second Commissioner Myers? Please record your vote.
This is item B2.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I am Melinda Genzarli, Acting County Internal Auditor, and I'm here today to request the Board to accept the Pet Resources Center Foster Program Audit Report 2024-10. The audit's objective was to determine the maturity of the foster program's management activities, and it was conducted in conformance with the international standards for the professional practice of internal auditing. Prior to today, I briefed the Commissioners on the audit report's contents. I am happy to take any questions you may have before requesting the Board to accept the audit report.
All right, thank you. If you have any questions or comments, if not, can we have a motion to accept the report? Motion,
Second.
Commissioner Wolstel, second, Commissioner Miller. Please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bonnie?
Our apologies for that. We can go back to the public hearing for item D4. This is for the solid waste non-ad valorem assessment, disposal, and collection assessment rates. This is a public hearing. Are we ready over there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I'm downloading it right now. Yes, ma'am. That's it. Gotcha, gotcha. Yep. All right, you see it on the podium? All right, you saying it? Okay.
Well, good morning, Commissioners. Damian Trammell, Director of Solid Waste Management Department. I do apologize for the inconvenience and the delay. Item D4 is the annual public hearing to adopt the solid waste rate resolution for 2025. I'll be giving a brief overview of the solid waste department system. Then I'll turn it back over to the board for further discussion.
Drop it real. Oh, oh. That's that one.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Commissioners, again. Our vision is to have a long-term, sustainable, and financially responsible integrated solid waste system. We will ensure that system capacity is available for our current and future residents. We'll be creative in our thinking when developing cost reduction projects. And with your help, Commissioners, we will seek to improve our collection and disposal system. And above all, public health and safety will remain a top priority. We provide services to over 320,000 single-family homes in unincorporated Hillsborough County. Our robust system consists of 2 garbage, 1 yard waste, and 1 recycling service pickup per week. This equates to approximately 1.2 million services provided weekly. 3 contracted haulers provide the collection services: Republic Services of Florida, Waste Management of Tampa, and FCC Environmental Services. We have 1 landfill, 1 waste energy plant, also known as our resource recovery facility, 2 transfer stations, 5 community collection centers, 3 yard waste processing sites, 2 donation sites, and 3 household hazardous waste sites as well. Okay. We generate approximately 1.2 million tons of solid waste annually. 44% is being disposed of at our resource recovery facility, which is operating at capacity. 41% is being disposed of at the landfill, and we are currently recycling about 15%. In addition to the residential curbside services, which consist of 2 garbage, 1 yard waste, and 1 recycling per week, the assessment also covers other services and programs that bring value to our customers. To name a few, our customers can bring up to 10 cubic yards of bulk waste, such as a chair or a couch, to one of our community collection centers for no additional charge. Our customers can also dispose of up to 2 tons of yard waste at one of our facilities, again, at no additional charge. We provide customers an opportunity 6 days a week to dispose of household hazardous waste, and we have a team dedicated to repairing and delivering roll carts upon request. We also have several service delivery contracts for reprocessing various waste materials, including tires, electronic waste, paint, batteries, and scrap metal. Additionally, I will highlight 2 programs we offer for customers who meet eligibility requirements. Our senior citizen discount is one, and our hardship credit program is another. We offer a 29% discount on our disposal fee for citizens who are 65 years of age or older, which is a very popular program. That equates to about $43 under today's rate. We also have the hardship program. This exemption provides a $60 credit that will be issued against the assessment for customers who meet the eligibility requirements. Hillsborough County property owners are automatically assessed for solid waste services annually each November on their residential property tax bill. There are 2 separate assessments. a solid waste collection fee for residential curbside service, and a solid waste disposal fee that pays for the operation of the county's disposal system. In 2013, the county embarked on a new collection agreement for 7 years, transitioning to an automated curbside collection service. The collection contract was set to expire in 2020, so we took a proactive step by issuing an RFP for collection services in advance. Despite the initial setback of higher than expected bids, we successfully renegotiated the collection agreement with FCC, Environmental Services, Waste Management Tampa, and the Republic Services of Florida at a lower rate. As the graph demonstrates, from 2013 to 2020, we maintained stable rates. However, from 2018 to 2020, the county encountered significant cost increases. These were primarily due to inflation, increased wage pressures for CDL drivers, supply chain issues, and increased maintenance costs, all of which directly impacted the solid waste operation. In 2020, the county developed a 3-year rate plan to increase rates in 21, 22, and then in 23. This plan was designed to recover our costs increases related to operating expenses and contractual services. In 2023, we did not raise rates as planned and instead took advantage of a one-time use of using unrestricted cash reserves to hold the assessment flat. And in 2024, we raised rates to finalize the 3-year plan to recover our operational and contractual cost increases. Leave it there. The recommended FY25 rate increase will cover the annual consumer price index rate adjustment for the residential collection agreement with the FCC Environmental Services, Waste Management Tampa, and Republic Services. It will also cover the recycling contract the board approved in October of last year, the loss of electrical revenue, and our capital needs. Leave it there. Our resource recovery facility incinerates garbage and produces electricity that we sell to Seminole Electric. On average, in the last 4 years, we have received approximately $17 million in revenue annually from selling electricity to Seminole Electric. Our agreement with Seminole Electric expires in February of 2025. With the current electric sale agreement ending and due to the current market conditions in the energy sector, the county is expecting a significant revenue loss of approximately $10 million from the sale of our electricity. The recommended FY25 rate increase will include funding to support the loss of electrical revenue. Additionally, Solid Waste Management Department also requires funding to meet regulatory compliance and to upgrade our aging infrastructure. Commissioners, the pressure on our system and our aging facilities is at an all-time high. Our landfill is a finite asset and is running out of capacity and must be expanded. If we do not act fast, we are one significant storm away from being in a solid waste crisis here in Hillsborough County. If the landfill reaches its end of useful life, we will have to transport waste to another landfill. The cost of transporting waste out of the county would double our cost of transporting and disposing of waste. Also, we will be at the mercy of a private vendor to open their doors for our use. The recommended FY25 rate increase will fund a portion of the cost of expanding the landfill to accommodate additional waste generation from the growing population here in Hillsborough County. Our Northwest and Resource Recovery Facility are both over 38 years old, and require some significant improvements. The recommended FY25 rate increase would fund the improvements for these facilities. And in October last year, the board approved extending the recycling contract with Waste Connections for 3 years. The recommended FY25 rate increase includes funding to support our recycling contract with Waste Connections. At our last meeting, we continued the public hearing to allow staff time to evaluate options that would reduce the assessment for the board's consideration. We have several scenarios to review with you, along with outlining the impacts of each option. The first scenario, if the board decides not to increase rates in FY25, This will mean zero increase. Commissioners, it's important to mention that the solid waste fund operates as an enterprise fund, which means that rates should cover the cost of service. Setting rates below cost is not sustainable. Most of the solid waste management department operating costs are contracted out to the private sector and represent market rate for service. All of our contractual agreements have annual price escalation provisions for inflation. Not raising rates to offset these costs means higher rate increases in future years. Also, the county's primary collection and disposal infrastructure requires significant capital reinvestment. A transfer station requires capital reinvestment to address safety needs. Our resource recovery facility is approaching end of life and requires some significant near-term improvements. Our landfill requires closures of certain landfill cells. Our landfill also requires expansion to continue to receive waste for disposal. To fund the capital, we will need to borrow money since the solid waste fund doesn't have enough cash reserves. If we do not raise rates at all, no rate increase, we risk a credit downgrade, which could make borrowing money in the future more expensive. We risk being in technical default of our bond ordinance. Simply put, our operating expenses will exceed our revenue. Next scenario. If we reduce the recommended annual rate increase by $16, bringing the rate increase to $24 annually, this option will allow us to fund the residential collection agreement, the recycling agreement, which was approved in 2023, and our recurring operating expenses. However, it will not support the loss of electrical revenue, and we will not be able to fund any capital projects. Under this scenario, we will be at risk of technical default of our bond ordinance, and we will be at risk of potential credit downgrade. Next scenario. If we reduce the recommended annual rate increase by $8, bringing the rate increase to $32 annually, this option will allow us to fund the residential collection agreement, the recycling agreement, our recurring operating expenses, and it will support the loss of revenue from the electrical agreement. But again, we will not be able to fund any capital projects. Under this scenario, we would avoid the risk of technical default of our bond ordinance and avoid any risk of potential credit rating downgrade. Next scenario. If we reduce the recommended annual rate increase by $4, bringing the rate increase to $36, this option will allow us to fund the residential collection agreement and the recycling agreement and recurring operating expenses. It would also support the loss of revenue from the electrical agreement, and we will be able to fund a portion, not all, but a portion of our capital projects. Under this scenario, again, we would avoid the risk of technical default of our bond ordinance and any risk of potential credit rating downgrade. And finally, if the board approves the recommended annual rate increase of $40.39, this would allow us to cover all of our contractual obligations, ensure that we have the ability to continue to improve our disposal system, and it avoids potential credit rating downgrade or technical default. The recommended annual increase to the assessment is $40.38, Commissioners, of which $32.03 is related to our residential and recycling contract and the loss of electrical revenue from our agreement with Seminole Electric, which expires in February 2025. And $8.36 is related to the debt service costs of our capital improvement projects to sustain and improve our disposal system. Again, the recommended increase is $40.39 annually, which equals an increase of $3.37 per month. Commissioners, we are actively exploring future opportunities to reduce the rate pressure on our citizens. We have looked at the option of transitioning to once-a-week service. I'd like to mention in 2021, once-a-week collection was part of the bid for collection services. The cost reduction was less than 10% for collection only, which is approximately $16 annually. Our collection agreement with FCC Environmental Services and Waste Management Tampa and We're Public Services of Florida expires in 2029. At that time, we will have the latitude to explore the once-a-week collection option. Also, we had the option to consider charging at our community collection centers for disposal of solid waste. However, the impact of this decision may lead to an increase of illegal dumping cases. It's also important to mention that the main reason for providing the community collection centers is to encourage the proper disposal of waste. But again, it is an option to consider that could reduce the assessment. Commissioner, we recognize that cost increases place an additional burden on our residents. However, the increase reflects our cost of providing solid waste services, and without a rate increase, our expenses will exceed our revenue. This will conclude my presentation. Again, the purpose of this public hearing is for the board to adopt the resolution establishing the solid waste assessment for FY25. Written notices were mailed to over 320,000 homeowners. The notice of this public hearing was also published in the Tampa Bay Times and Florida Sentinel. To date, we received 60 written responses. Once the new rates are adopted, they will go into effect October 1st. With that, I'm gonna turn it back over to the board.
All right, thanks, Damian. Appreciate the presentation. This is a public hearing. Anyone like to speak to this item? Okay, we're going to board discussion. Commissioner Cohen?
I'm wondering if we can put the chart with the different options on the board while we discuss this, if that would be okay. This is always a difficult conversation, and I think it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that we're here, given the conversations we have every week about the different costs that are going up across the board as people face just issues related to the cost of living. Most of the costs that are involved in this particular item are related to things that have already been negotiated in our agreements with the waste contractors. All of those agreements were negotiated and went through a very extensive RFP process and scrutiny. And one of the things that we know is that the cost of labor is part of the driver of this. And it's partly a reflection of the fact that these are hard jobs to do, that this is working out in the heat, and it is a tremendous responsibility to get these runs done and to get them done properly. And I know, having been here for long enough, that we are getting a lot less complaints today than we got a year ago from our previous haulers. And that has been a real relief, not just to our offices, but it's been a relief to our citizens who, depend so greatly on that service. I really think, given the difference in costs on these items, the benefit of going with the 9.2% cannot be overstated. The lower options put us in risk of bond default. They don't give us any opportunity to make any capital improvements. And I think that we would really be putting ourselves in harm's way if we didn't heed the warning and make sure that we invest for the future. I wanted to ask, though, whether or not it would be possible, if we did the 9.2%, to extend the hardship and senior criteria to cover the increase just for those two discrete groups. My understanding, I believe, from my conversations with the administrator, is that in some cases people are eligible for both. And Ms. Miller, I believe you were the ones that asked that question originally, I was told. So that's a really important point, because that means that for those that really need it, there is a relief valve with this. On the other hand, we as a community make sure that we make a real effort to make down payments on our future needs and recognize the fact that the people that do this work deserve to be paid a fair wage, and that in this economic environment where there are other jobs available, if we do not honor those commitments and we don't pay people appropriately, they're not gonna do it. They'll go and do other things, and that creates an entire another problem. So I'm obviously interested to hear what everyone else has to say, but can I get an answer to that, whether or not we can extend the hardship and senior criteria to cover the increase for those groups that are affected by that?
Yes, so I was just conferring, and yes, so the senior discount currently is $43.86 a year, and the hardship, I'm sorry, I didn't write that one down, is $60.
Yes.
And yes, Commissioner Miller did ask me that question yesterday, and I didn't know the answer. Can somebody get both? And yes, they can get both if they are eligible for both. And yes, we can increase that discount as well.
So, we'll see what everyone else feels about this. But my view is that we should go with the 9.2%, but have the hardship and senior criteria cover the increase for those groups that are affected by it, in the hope that it makes it more fair and eases the burden, but at the same time makes a very, very important statement that we are going to protect our solid waste service. And I just want to say on the 1 day a week business, I have seen this studied before. I think a lot of us have. I remember when I was on Tampa City Council, we did a major public outreach and discussion about it. And there was a lot of public resistance to it because everyone knows during the summer, a week is an awfully long time to wait for your solid waste to be picked up. But there was also a lot of questioning by the staff over whether or not you'd really save any money, because the trucks fill up faster, they have to make the runs more frequently, and the same amount of waste is being produced. So I'm not sure that's something we can really depend on in the future. And just to go to the last point about the community collection sites, I think that it's true. If we were to close them, people will dump more stuff in the middle of the road and on people's lawns. It's just, not providing that is only going to ask to make another problem worse. So at this point, I'm going to motion for the 9.2% plus the hardship and senior criteria that we discussed, and we'll see where the conversation goes.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Cohen for the 9.2% increase and also extend the hardship and senior criteria that we have currently. Second by Commissioner Kemp. Commissioner Wostel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Damian, if solid waste doesn't work out for you, you should go and do voiceovers for books. I think that you have I wanted the perfect voice for that. Everyone here is in an impossible decision. I've communicated to you for many reasons. I'm not going to support any increases on anyone for any reason anymore. It's not just $40. As you just saw, a couple of years ago, they had increased stormwater, increased regular water, property, and it's the school board's trying to make every home more unaffordable in Hillsborough County right now. It's so much, it's suffocating. And the most important thing to me about this item is that this is a capital improvement, right? That you said that this increase is mainly for the assets, correct?
Well, no, that's part of it. Most of it, so I'll go back to it. So we have about, I would say probably 77% of it is all related to contractual obligations. All right, so we have $32.03 is related to the franchise agreements, the recycling contract, and the loss of electrical revenue. Only $8 is associated with the capital improvement of the system.
Even better. So right now, as you know, we have a CIT renewal opportunity going forward, and in there is pre-baked for, I've received I think I might have mentioned this to you, maybe not, I received a one-page, extremely irresponsible briefing. Thank you for how thorough yours are, by the way, from the chair of our sports authority that said that because of 10 words like 30 years ago, we were unknowingly obligated to like $430 million of improvements to a stadium that cost $170 million all in. Wow. And that same body just declined a sell, I think, last week for $6 billion of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is what I believe the report was. And it just makes me physically nauseous that the CIT, it could go to subsidize these things, that $8, whatever it is. So we could be subsidizing regular working class people instead of billionaires. And just for that reason, I just can't support any more increases until we rethink how we, who we're subsidizing in Hillsborough County. So thank you.
Commissioner Myers?
Thank you. Damien, thank you for giving us an overview. You came back when I had my briefing to address a lot of the questions that are part here. Commissioner Cohen, I do agree with you. Having something for our seniors in place that can accommodate is very, very strong. And also we have to consider our bond rating. You know, a couple of years ago, we voted to bring this back and says, hey, for our haulers, here's the increase that they're asking. And today, we just have to live up to our contractual obligations that we agreed to a couple of years ago. So I'm going to support the motion. Thank you.
Commissioner Miller?
I'd like some clarification, Commissioner Cohen, on what you mean by extend. Can you explain what that means, please?
Maybe I'll defer to the administrator.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm glad you asked that because I wanted to make sure that we are clear on what you're recommending. So the current senior discount, as I mentioned, is $43.86, and then the $60 for the hardship. I would recommend increasing each of those at $8 or so, and that we could accommodate that because we can't, I don't think, cover the entire $40. But I would say increase each of them by $8, and that way somebody would be eligible for an additional $16 discount.
So then I need further clarification on the window for applying for those closed on 7/31. So would we be extending the window to match the new rate?
Commissioner, yes, we will. We will. Yes, we will.
So we would be able to extend that to make that available when the new rate would come in?
Yes, we
Thank
will.
you.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda?
Yes, if you could please explain for everyone listening what the rate increase avoids higher increases the following year.
Can you repeat that again, Commissioner?
Yeah, you had on the list how with the increase,
right.
It would avoid, the rate increase would avoid the higher increase the following year.
Yeah, go ahead.
George Cassidy, Public Utilities. Yes, Commissioner. So anything that's not approved this year is going to have to go on next year's assessment. These are projects, certainly the capital side, these are desperately needed projects. So if we're not able to fund them this year, they will need to be funded next year. Yeah. So anything that we're going after would include whatever is not approved this year.
Right, so it wouldn't cause, because of older equipment or anything like that, would cause things to be an increase?
Commissioner would say
other than just this delayed an extra year, you know?
It's never cheaper than it is today.
Yes.
So it may be more next year.
Okay, thank you. And I really like the idea of the senior discount and the hardship credit program. I mean, I think that's really awesome to have for our seniors. Thank you.
Commissioner Kemp?
Yes, and I just want to thank Damien for that. It was very compelling and thorough presentation on that as well. I do totally agree with the points raised by Commissioner Cohen. I really think that supporting the 9.2 is really the responsible thing to do. For those of you that haven't been around for 8 years, and I know that Commissioner Hagan knows this, we just had so many issues with solid waste collection for so many years in such a huge way. That has literally disappeared. We were really, there had been increases in all kinds of things. For instance, drivers, I know, was a big issue. As we know, many people started doing other kinds of driving, whether it be Amazon or Uber or anything like that. And that was a issue for the companies that do this, which are private companies. It's not us paying county employees, staff, or anything like that. But we would have trouble staffing if we didn't have it. Again, the bond default would be really, unthinkable, actually, and cost us a lot later. We have the hardship exceptions, which I think are very good and that we can offer in there that virtually don't change, the cost of this program at all. I'd like to point out too, we're talking about $40 increase on the tax bill a year, $40.39, $3.37 a month. That is a very minimum cost increase. It's not the kinds of increases that people are used to. It's very small, considering where our insurance, at least mine and everybody else's, in a single year, without a claim ever, increased $2,000. I mean, we're talking about in a single year $40 here. And again, I've heard the point made so many times that, if we had only built the road now, it wouldn't have cost this much in the future. We really have to put our infrastructure in place now. We really have to be responsible about investing in it now and doing the right thing by saving us, first of all, a lot of pain in the future by not having in place what we need to have, and which we haven't done for so many years. And second of all, saving money, saving resources for our taxpayers by doing that. And I'll say, I have to say, when I see that also the PACE program would be put on the tax bill, and there are ample examples of it in a single year for many years forward, costing people thousands of dollars more on their tax bills, just like insurance, rather than $40 a year. I'll just point out the comparison now, because that's what we'll be talking about next. But this is this is paying for a service that's operating, that's careful, and I still don't exactly understand how we can pass the contracts that obligate us to this, but not then why it comes back actually all the time, except in terms of the capital. But I will totally be supporting this.
Commissioner Miller?
I just wanted to have a point of clarification. When on his motion, can we ensure that we can, one, have the increased and those protections, and two, that the date is going to be opened up? Because the most important thing to me is making sure that we're protecting the residents that this is most concerning for. I mean, to Commissioner Kemp's point, a lot of us, it's not that much of an increase, but to many of my constituents, it's a big deal. And I want to make sure that those can have that available to them.
Yes. Mr. Chair? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, and thank you all for the clarification. And yes, we will ensure that both of those things occur. The date extended and the increases for both the senior discount and the hardship. Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Cohen, second by Commissioner Kemp, which is for the 9%, while also extending the hardship and senior criteria with an additional $8 increase on both, and we're also extending the date. Did I get all that correct?
Do you all need to clarify anything that I said?
Mr. Chair, I just want to clarify that the extension could go through October 1, if that would be acceptable.
Okay, through October 1. Okay.
I guess that's because of the tax bill.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so a motion and second, please record your vote.
Motion carried 5-2. Commissioner Hagan and Wostel voted no.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, Bonnie, next item.
Yes, the next item is back to Commissioner Wostel. This is item F4.
Commissioner Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I shuffled my own paperwork around. I'm a bad attorney today. There's a problem that I've found in Hillsborough County and the history of it, where it seems that elected officials have come in some instances, they've set up trust funds, in my opinion, for golden parachutes for them when they exit office to go out into the private sector, create perhaps a nonprofit or other type of organization that they have full intentions and try to come back in and then leverage and harvest that rainy day fund that they have got implemented into policy here. And I think that that's wrong. I think that that's inappropriate. I think it's borderline criminal. Probably not all the way, but borderline, which is probably a reason that we shouldn't do it. There are some organizations right now that are operated by other elected officials that leverage their direct access to us to get line item flags of people's property taxes, working class citizens, economically disadvantaged citizens' property taxes, to then be in line item to go back and enrich their own organization. And I think that that is wrong. I asked for a future item for the county attorney's office to vet whether or not we could put forward an ordinance that prohibits awards of Hillsborough County government funds to organizations owned or operated by public officers presiding over any office in Hillsborough County. They have said that that is correct. I don't like to name call or call out those particular organizations because it's really nothing personal against them. It's just that it's wrong. It's not what our duties are to our people that we're here to represent for their interests, not our own personal interests. For that reason, I motion to direct the county attorney's office to prepare an ordinance prohibiting awards of Hillsborough County government funds to organizations owned or operated by public officers presiding over any office in Hillsborough County, and bring that back for a vote of the Board of County Commissioners.
We got a motion by Commissioner Wostel. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. Any comments on the motion, Commissioner Myers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Wostel, I know you say you don't want to call any organizations out, but there are some organizations who are elected officials that's running nonprofit organizations and not benefiting personally, but they're there to make sure that the underserved communities are represented. So I see this as two different fold. I won't be supporting the motion because it takes away from people that I know who are spearheading, serving as CEOs or presidents of nonprofit organizations, are there to assist the underserved and not to fatten their pockets. Okay?
Commissioner Cohen?
Yeah, this board can give money to anything it wants to give money to or not. And if you don't want to give money to any nonprofit, you can vote no on it. So I'm not going to be in support of this. I think this is a solution in search of a problem.
Commissioner Kemp?
Yes, exactly. For the two reasons stated before, if there's any problems with, and there's implications of sinister behaviors or something made, if there's any problem with a not-for-profit and how they're operating and what they're doing, then we can learn that. We don't have to approve it. And it's a vote of this board to vet it. So I would not be in favor of this. And I don't even actually like the implications that there's, anything wrong with this.
Commissioner Wostel?
Yeah, I would just say I do know the one that's being referenced from Commissioner Myers. I do know that that CEO is paid through her external consulting firm directly. It's in their IRS 990. That's public information. It is happening. It's not an insinuation. I mean, it is happening. There are elected officials, some that have already left, some that have personally lobbied me, that have set up master plans, and then they go out and then they have a nonprofit and they come back and they lobby me for those dollars into the program that they themselves set up as an elected official. And look, for me, I just think that it's wrong. And if you think that it's right, then you can vote no, that you do believe that elected officials should profiteer off of the property taxes of the economically disadvantaged and working class citizens of Hillsborough County. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, so the motion is by Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. Please record your vote on D4, or F4, sorry.
Motion failed, 3-4. Commissioners Cohen, Hagan, Kemp, and Myers voted no.
All right, Bonnie, next item.
Thank you. The next item is item G1. This is the staff report that followed the last board meeting to receive a report regarding the Property Assessed Clean Energy Program, better known as PACE in Hillsborough County. Eric Olson, with Manager of Consumer Protection Services, will present this item.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Eric Olson, Manager of Consumer Protection Services in the Consumer and Veteran Services Department. Again, I'm here to present item G1. As you know, at the August 7th, 2024 BOCC meeting, Commissioner Wostel moved for the board to adopt the resolution before the board, which would authorize a PACE program for Hillsborough County and approve interlocal agreements with the various PACE finance authorities. The motion added an amendment to restrict the length of PACE assessments for air conditioners to 8 years and shingle roofs to 15 years. The BOCC directed staff to bring back updates as adopted by the state, which is why I'm here today. Earlier this year, as you know, the Florida legislature passed Senate Bill 770, which was approved by the governor on June 28, 2024, and became effective July 1st of this year. The legislation, Chapter 2024-273, known as the Act, substantially amends the state legislation applicable to property assessed clean energy and the related programs. The Act defines key terms, it amends and expands the types of qualifying improvements, and imposes new consumer protections and also enacts new PACE contractor oversight accountability provisions. To address certain consumer protection concerns, the Act requires program administrators to make various determinations prior to approving financing and the agreements with the property owners. Examples of these determinations, as well as key updates outlining protective measures, are included in the detailed report submitted as an attachment to this item. At this point, I will highlight some of the key updates for your consideration. Key updates include that the Act modifies the types of qualifying improvements eligible for PACE financing, which includes expanding roof-related improvements, adds to the list of qualifying improvements, including wastewater systems, flood and water damage mitigation, and resiliency improvements. It provides additional consumer protections, including that before entering into agreements with the property owner, program administrators must ensure sufficient resources. They must ensure the term of the agreement does not exceed the useful life of the qualifying improvement. For residential properties, no prepayment penalties or balloon payments are allowed. No reverse mortgage. Total annual payment amount should not exceed 10% of the owner's income, and they should ensure that no outstanding fines or fees related to zoning or code enforcement violations issued by the county or municipality exist on the property. Program administrator must post on its website an annual report within 45 days after the end of the fiscal year, including the number of projects that they have, the average amount of assessments, and the number of defaults, and a summary of complaints. A residential property owner may also cancel without penalty the financing agreement within 3 business days after signing, and the program administrator must provide a written financial estimate to the residential property owner that contains the estimated annual assessment, interest charged, description of the improvement, annual costs and fees, that there's no prepayment penalty. If the house is sold, then the amount must be paid, and that the assessment will be collected with taxes and result in a property lien. Finally, before final issuance of funds to a contractor, the program administrator must ensure that the work is complete, that a permit is closed, and that any other related items, such as a certificate of occupancy, is clear and complete. Additional changes to the statute apply to commercial properties and are like the ones that I've mentioned here. Many of them are the same, but changes apply to circumstances unique to commercial property ownership issues and management. Commissioners, attached for your review and background information, you will find memos provided by our county attorney's office, an overview of the material differences between the proposed PACE program agreements presented at the August 7th BOCC meeting, and agreements entered into by the county in 2017, addressing the PACE legislative updates. If the BOCC desires to re-implement PACE and the program here in the county, the following options are presented. You could adopt the resolution and PACE program agreements as submitted and include Commissioner Wosel's amendment to restrict the length of PACE assessments for air conditioners to 8 years and shingle roofs to 15. Or direct staff to review and incorporate any additional recommended protective and beneficial measures that the BOCC may so direct, and bring back a revised resolution and PACE program agreements for BOCC consideration. This concludes our report. I, Director Strom, and Sam Hamilton from the County Attorney's Office are available for any additional questions.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate the presentation. Commissioner Wostel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to clear up a couple of things that there seem to be ongoing confusion is this is only about implementing a resolution. There were 4 template ILAs that were provided just as templates and examples, but eventually the staff is going to, if approved, would just come back with a uniform one that either people get on board with or people don't get on board with, and if they don't, then they don't do business here. The resolution is simply a protection to create guardrails. It is in no way guaranteeing anybody the right to start doing business in Hillsborough County. I think we all got visits from the tax collector. She provided some really helpful information. My staff has provided you with a paragraph that she was hoping to have implemented as protections, which could be accomplished in the interlocal agreement. So on a subsequent motion, if the initial one passes, we can just direct staff to incorporate and work with the tax collector to include that extra protection that she wanted. It was from the Palm Beach County's uniformed collection agreement that gave a little bit more protection to the consumer. The tax collector also wanted, which it sounds like is already going to, but is already required, but we can make it more robust, which is the consumer disclosure notice, financial disclosures, making it extremely transparent to everybody involved. This is how much your current property taxes are this year. This is what your current month's mortgage rate is. This is what, if you sign this loan, your property tax assessment would be the following year, and what your new monthly mortgage rate would be. So this is just all ways to protect folks and make sure that there's no surprises. She also provided a very useful PACE summary, which really cleared up a lot of the misinformation that has been said about this program. That was even confusing to me because the numbers weren't robust. On that PACE summary that she already provided to all of us, so this is not me reintroducing new information. I hope that you reviewed it. There are 2,322 total PACE accounts and assessments as of 2023. That totals $5,058,000. That means on average, a PACE assessment in Hillsborough County is about $2,150. These are not some titanic assessments on people's homes that are going to completely disrupt their way of life. These are ones where they didn't have to go out and take like maybe a predatory AMSCOT loan or try to get a second mortgage, probably get declined for a second mortgage because the reason they had to even use PACE is because they didn't have the credit rating or finances, and this is a way for them to access the equity of their home. This program is not perfect. No program is perfect. Out of these 2,322 PACE accounts, there is only one in tax deed foreclosure and one more currently eligible for tax deed foreclosure out of 2,322 tax assessments. This is directly off of our own records that was provided to us by our own tax collector. She also made it clear to me, and I believe the rest of you, hopefully, is that she is not against PACE. She is just for more consumer protections, which is what we're doing. We're just putting in the guardrails to the playground, and if they don't want to come and play, then by all means, go to another county. But if they're going to play here, we're going to be really restrictive and protective of our citizens because we don't want anybody to be taken advantage of. But at the same time, we also just went through like 2 weeks of heat warnings where senior citizens without an air conditioner that might not be able to afford it because they didn't have access to a program like this dies of heat stroke. That's not something that I'm okay with in Hillsborough County. Or somebody else that having their whole livelihood destroyed because they have a leak in their roof because they don't want to go get a predatory reversed mortgage. They can't get an application for a second mortgage, and they have this option that could at least have them living safely and comfortably. I believe that this is a good program as long as we put forward the resolutions, and then a subsequent motion could be made. Staff made a lot of finds. I believe that one of the templates that were provided is one of the agencies tries to get countywide. That's absolutely not something that I'm okay with. That was identified in the report. The cities can do whatever that they'd like. It needs to be restricted to unincorporated. All of those things are things that I personally wouldn't even consider once they come back for approval of those interlocal agreements, for instance. They identified a number of other good protections, all things that we can direct them to work with the agencies over the next couple of months and come back to a uniform interlocal agreement that everybody can get on board with, everybody's protected, and we won't get any more surprises if Tallahassee decides to change the law again. We have a program in place. No one can come back behind the scenes for 18 or 20 months, whatever it was, and do dialer phone calls and, in my opinion, prey off of our citizens without our knowledge even. And I think now are we still in a lawsuit with that agency?
Technically, yes.
Okay.
It's up in Leon. It's actually on appeal to the Florida Supreme Court.
Okay, so these are all things that we can just rein it in, get protections in place, get the financial disclosures into the interlocal agreement. The tax collector can be comfortable and happy. I'm interested in the most robust protections possible. This is simply just to move the ball forward. And my staff also provided you with the full resolution, again, that was provided a number of weeks ago. And on page 6, under the qualifying improvements, I did add in to the red what we had motioned for last week. The only change was that for the restriction, 8 years, it's very complicated for the reasons that were provided, but increments of 5 is just an easier financial mechanism. It still accomplishes my goal. In the commercial space, I know that I budgeted for a new AC about every 8 years. In the residential space, I would agree that 10 to 12 is probably an appropriate time. If you don't remember my reasons, I don't want somebody to pay for an AC, and while the AC as a whole might last for 15 years, the pumps could reasonably go out after 10 years, and I do not want them paying a full assessment for an AC for 15 years when at 10 years they're having to pay for several thousand or several $100s of pump repairs that they might not be able to afford. I just want to protect them all the way, and if they can't afford it at 10 years, then they couldn't have afforded it at 15 years, plus the likely repairs that would have occurred. 15 years, I'm pretty sure that an insurance company will not even underwrite you if your shingle roof is over 15 years. This is a lot of my driving factor behind that. I'm an expert in the roofing space. That's what I used to do. I know the scam that is lifetime 30-year warranties on shingle roofs. There's exclusions. It does not count in Florida with our extreme weather. The shingles do not last more than 15 years comfortably without it starting to leak. Those are the reasons that I added those two in. And I'm open, now that you've had a couple more weeks to analyze staff's report and have your own thoughts, for some more restrictions if you like. So I will wait to hear what everybody else has to say.
Commissioner Kemp?
Yes, it's kind of hard to know where to begin because there's so much, but it really is something that we should have workshops and go through the denseness and issues with this program. As I explained before, I fell for PACE in 2017. It was a mistake. The lobbyist sales pitch is really good, and no one person told me what I needed to know before I approved it. And I think we need to really have some more process and understanding here of really what the PACE program does and how it could greatly harm and cause people to lose their homes. And the kind of shocking and predatory issues associated with it. I'll say first off, people say, well, where do people go? Hillsborough County has an excellent program. It's called SELF. It is a not-for-profit. It's done in several counties. I'm proud that we have brought it here. And they help anyone who has financial or credit issues and who own a home, and they give them counseling. It's a not-for-profit. It's got a loan bank. 99% of the loans are repaid. Contractors are vetted. People are assisted with counseling to help them with credit counseling, to help them understand the obligations of the loan, to help them get a good contractor who doesn't leave them in the lurch and who isn't there just to sell a predatory financial instrument, basically. That's what the program is about. I do have some questions, and one is with regards to federal regulations. There's pending federal rules that would require PACE to be regulated, just like mortgages. We're putting this on people's homes, okay? Require them to be regulated like mortgages, and that consumer protections be put in place, including the Truth in Lending Act, and the important ability to seek relief in court when terms are inadequately disclosed. Both banking and consumer associations support these rules. They wrote a letter to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and said that residential PACE financing, by the way, which is only available for residents in 3 states, California, Missouri, and Florida, and which has been discontinued in many other jurisdictions. But residential PACE financing should be subject to the same regulations that apply to first lien mortgages so that people are not subject to losing their homes. The rule, if enacted, will significantly limit the well-documented abuses that have occurred in states with the residential PACE programs. So I'd just like to know, is the PACE program subject to the federal truth in lending?
Currently, there's a proposed rule that went before the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau last year. It was submitted for comment. The comment period ended in July of last year. And the most updated information that I have from them is that it can take a year or more before that's implemented. So they're still in a consideration phase. It is not subject to that currently, but that could be something that appears to be pending in the near future.
And if instead of approving PACE on the fly, and we looked at it closely, this is something we should wait to make sure that the residents of Hillsborough County that might access this program are protected by truth in lending, as they are for all other consumer purchases and their mortgages. Importantly, their mortgages. How much more important could it be to be protected against that? And again, I'll just say, we do have our own SELF program that is very, very good. It's excellent, not-for-profit. And I'm so pleased that we do have that for our residents to use. I'd just like to ask for a few. We have some examples, and that these are, if we could put the first one, example number 1, up on the screen there so we could just see, because I'd like to ask about this. These are from the Jacksonville Legal Services. These are cases that Jacksonville Legal Services took on. And it just makes it very clear so you can understand with regards to PACE. Some examples of the things that ended up in their offices. There you go, a flat roof, financing term 30 years, interest rate 9.5%. 6.49, total lien of $103,000 on this house that's worth $168,000. Their previous tax bill was $627. It went up to $4,082. That's in a year. And you might say, well, it could only be for 15 years for roofs, not 30 years. Well, that's probably going to get close to doubling actual cost on the new tax bill for that person. These are ones that ended up at Legal Services in Jacksonville. Just so we understand exactly how this works. Example number 2, if we could just put that up there. Here's one. This is, again, attic insulation, air conditioning, which I know is on this 8-year term, water heater, $25,000, $25,839, financing term 20 years. If you shorten the financing term, you're going to increase the new tax bill because you're going to have to do it and pay this in shorter number of years. The interest rate's at $899, and the shortening would only be for the air conditioning, but the total lien we have here on this home, $56,500 for this work. Previous tax bill, $361. They get hit with a new tax bill, and that's a yearly tax bill. We're talking about, we were before, couldn't support $40 a year for solid waste collection, but instead these people will be paying $3,189 more a year. And finally, the third example, again, this is for windows at $17,576, 30 years, and that's allowed. Interest rate $849, total lien $49,000, and then we get tax bill jumps from $703 to $2,336 for 30 years. And so thanks for having that up. I'd like to ask too, so this works because salespeople knock on doors, and I'll say that they target low-income communities that are desperate and they don't know, they don't understand what the PACE is. They come and say they're Hillsborough County approved because it goes on your Hillsborough County tax bill. They target seniors, they target people that are in distress and need, often elderly, sometimes Spanish-speaking that don't understand. They typically solicit door-to-door. Isn't that true? I mean, isn't that how these are made? And they don't even have to sign documents, paper documents. They don't have to do that because this is all on an iPad. Isn't that accurate?
We did see some examples of that. Through the Consumer Protection Office, we're getting some examples that came in after the fact. So it's really the tip of the iceberg when you're looking at any sort of complaint process. We did get some examples, and we were seeing a pattern of iPad signatures. Some people were not getting documents. Some people were not. It's the total numbers and numbers that the tax collector has provided helped us to see what's actually going on. But there is a lot of different scenarios out there for people.
Yeah. So I will say that I have Mike Fasano. He's the tax collector for Pasco County, where he has wrestled with this statewide for some time, and he's on the virtually here. And I'd like to ask him if I could just for a minute to share some of the experiences he's had with PACE in Pasco County.
I'm going to give him 3 minutes.
Okay,
So,
that'd be great.
Clerk,
Thank you.
please start the timer.
I won't even take 3 minutes, Mr. Chairman. Very quickly, I was opposed to PACE when it first came out
We
as a
can't
state.
hear him. Can we turn that up a little?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I do apologize. I was opposed to PACE when I was in the Florida legislature in the Senate when it first came out many, many years ago. And as a Republican, I think I was the only Republican in the Senate that voted against it because I had concerns with it. We've had it here in Pasco County many, many years. I found the same thing that Commissioner Kemp is talking about, where we have people that are being preyed on, especially our seniors, where they're getting knocked on the door, telling them they need a new roof. They need a solar system. I mean, a solar system for a senior citizen at 78 years old who has a home of about 1,100 square feet will never be able to benefit from it. the thing here is if you're going to vote for this thing, if you're actually going to vote, put in place, in my opinion, a very bad program, you better make sure that there's some oversight. You know, in the state of Florida, there is no oversight. No one has control or oversees the PACE program. Loans are going out, mortgages, car loans, they're all regulated in some form or fashion. PACE loans are not. They're not. And I would encourage you to make sure that whatever is recommended by the tax collector, especially requiring them to have a contract with the tax collector and the property appraiser. They're the ones that are going to get overwhelmed by people when they get their tax bill. And I can tell you story after story after story, but I only have 3 minutes. I would highly recommend that you make certain that as those phone calls come in, when those tax notices go out, if those calls are going to go to the tax collector's office, make sure the tax collector has a contract with that PACE administrator. So if that administrator is not following the rules that are put in place, not requiring what you're requiring, and hoping the tax collector will require certain rules are put in place, make sure that that tax collector has the ability to cancel the contract, because some of these, it's overwhelming what's happening here in Pasco. Let me give you, for instance, I have a woman who was talked into having a solar system. She'll never benefit from it. And now she's going to pay for the next 30 years. And Commissioner Kemp makes a very good point, and I appreciate the commissioner suggesting 8 or 10 years or 15 years. If they can't afford a $500 or $1,000 tax notice now, how are they going to afford to a $3,000 or a $4,000 tax notice? They won't. And even though you see many of them not where tax certificates are being paid off, or there's no TDAs, tax deed applications being filed, it's because many of those people are selling their homes because they don't want to lose their homes in an auction by the clerk of court. I would highly recommend that you look at this very closely before you put it in
Thank
place.
you, sir. Appreciate it, Mr. Fasano.
Thank you.
Richard Kemp. Please bring this in for a landing.
I will.
Thank you.
But I also would like to bring Nancy Milan, our own tax collector, is here, and some of the statistics that were suggested with regards to Ms. Milan. We had this program in place, and it's been said that there hasn't been any homes lost or collections made, as Mike Fasano just tax collector Fasano just pointed out. It's because people can sell these homes and do or have to because they can't wait. But the other thing is there's 49 people on the PACE program now that are tax delinquent. And as you explained to me, it takes 22 months. So our programs that we put people on before, they're just hitting that line, which makes their house to go into delinquency and allows the lien to be. Can you explain that?
Yes. If
morning,
those
Ms. Milan.
taxes aren't paid, this is. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, just say you have 3 minutes.
Apologize.
Just say you have 3
Good
minutes.
morning. I'm Nancy Milan, Hillsborough County Tax Collector, and I echo Mike Fasano's sentiments on the program. And there are it's predatory lending. I had the opportunity to talk to Commissioner Wasto on this, and I do believe as elected officials we have the responsibility to look out for our community that we serve and the well-being of those folks that are homeowners and that they're not preyed on. When tax certificates are sold after 22 months, they do those investors do have the opportunity to force those properties into a foreclosure, and that's what we're here to circumvent those issues and work together. If you're going to have a program, obviously I'm not the person that's going to decide whether PACE is going to be reinstituted, but I want to make sure that our consumers or our property owners are protected because when it's time to foreclose on a property, they're calling my office, and we're the ones that have to, deal with those customers and try to help out as much as we can. So I would strongly suggest that we consider all those provisions and safeguards and put those in place in signing agreements, interlocal agreements, and I will follow suit with the uniform collection agreements that we would meet with each agency and add additional provisions in the contract to ensure, again, that we are informing our property owners who are signing up for the PACE program so that they are well informed and clearly understand the impact that they have. Not only are they going to have that PACE assessment, but there's rates that are increasing, such as the one we just talked about with solid waste. There's there's many variables that impact that bottom line of your property tax notice. And so we just want to make sure that the property owner is well informed before they sign and clearly understand the implications that they have in their tax obligations.
Thank you. And there are 49 homes
Yes,
that
ma'am.
are on the.
And I provided those statistics to all of the commissioners.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And finally, just Stacy Van Stank, thank you, the president of Tampa Bay Mortgage Bankers Association. If you could just tell us your concerns about PACE.
Okay. I'm representing the Mortgage Bankers Association of Florida, and I've reached out to our national advocate in DC. I'm going to just kind of sum up because a lot of it's been covered today. But the MBA does support the PACE program as long as it is, along with other banking consumer protection agencies, urge the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau revise federal rules to ensure proper disclosure and protection of the homeowners. We support ensuring PACE lenders would meet education, testing, and state requirements similar to what I have to do as a mortgage lender. I had to get my license. I have to do continuing education every year. These companies are coming out and representing like they're mortgage lenders. They should be licensed through the state. The MBA does advocate that PACE loans should not have priority over existing mortgages and supports regulatory efforts to address negative impacts on PACE. I have an example. I have a client who got the PACE program. She purchased her house in 2021, and her property taxes were $1,070. That's $89.22 a month. She got the PACE program for $30,000 over a 20-year period. The next year, her property taxes went to $59.78, an increase in just the taxes in her mortgage payment by $498 a month. Then the following year, her taxes went up to $63.69, another increase of $40 a month. So it is true, she had no idea what she was getting into. They never tested her for the ability to repay. As a mortgage lender, I'm required to do that. I'm going to put together, what is your income, what are your debts? Do you have the ability to repay this debt? They never tested her for that. They never even asked for her income. She could have a stated income. They never even asked her anything about her ability to repay. Now she's stuck with the house, living on ramen noodles and desolate. Got a roommate that didn't work out. So it does negatively. In fact, these people don't understand. So if we could take away their first lien priority and make sure that all these lenders are educated. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks. And with that, I'll just conclude. I'll just say there are so many problems. This is such a dense and difficult program. We shouldn't be we should be doing a workshop. We should put all kinds of protections in place. But my first motion will be to suspend consideration of PACE until pending federal regulations are in place. Truth in lending, which protects mortgages, which protects consumers, and which, so that these are subject also to, protection in courts for people that are abused by this program, and we should make sure that those protections first are in place.
I got a motion by Commissioner Kemp to suspend regulation of PACE. Do we have a second?
Until pending federal regulations are in place.
All right, motion dies for lack of a second. Did you have another motion?
Yes. I'd like to require that any PACE approval be undertaken by way of an ordinance and a public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Kemp. Do we have a second? All right, motion dies for lack of a second.
I have one more.
Okay.
Require any Hillsborough PACE program to include robust consumer protection as recommended by the National Consumer Law Center, and including all of the protections adopted in Pasco and Palm Beach counties.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Kemp.
I'll second that.
Second, Commissioner Cohen. Do you have any?
I got a quick
comment?
question on
Commissioner
that.
Wilson.
She said use all of the things implemented by Palm Beach and Pasco County?
Yes.
Okay, well, I mean, the hypocrisy of that, of people complaining that I bring forward stuff without bringing forward the information for us to review is on another level by its own, that it would even be brought forward. We don't know what they've used. They might have less than we even want. There's going to be another opportunity to add more protections. So I don't know how we could even consider something that we haven't read ourselves.
Can I just respond?
No.
Yes.
Hold on. He
Sure
still has the floor. Do you have any other comments?
Yeah, so I just don't believe that we have a resolution that you've had more than ample time to do your job and review, and I hope that you've done your job for the citizens and reviewed that. There's going to be another opportunity to add even more consumer protections after the first initial resolution if it passes. There will be an additional opportunity in the interlocal agreement to grind out any details. There you go. I'm gonna yield the floor.
All right, Commissioner, can I make a comment before we
Yes, I'd just like to say, again, requiring any Hillsborough PACE to include robust consumer protections is recommended by the National Consumer Law Center, and including the protections adopted in Pasco and Palm counties. So that gives an opportunity, if we vote for this to be included when this comes forward, and that we have these included. And anytime if you want to remove any of those, that can be done. But I think we really, both places, we're not subjecting this to a workshop. We're not subjecting this to the kinds of robust assessment we should have made to protect the residents of Hillsborough County from this. So I stand by this. I think it would be an excellent thing to include in a draft. And if you have any specific objections to any of these consumer protections, it could be argued out here. But this is a very dense, it's very important that that we not subject people to losing their homes, and that we take this giving the stamp of approval in Hillsborough County, letting us collect on this, putting it on the tax bill, holding people to that.
Commissioner Myers, do you want to comment on the motion? Well, I think they're for before she made her motion.
Okay. Yeah, my comments is really listening to all of the comments by the commission, by us as commissioners, is that I know in the underserved communities, yes, there are people that need home improvements, et cetera, that related to weather improvements. But I also would like to see if something can be brought back, like we do this considered with a 2-year pilot program, because we know we've already suspended PACE a couple of years ago, and then that the program offer an educational component before an applicant sign, so that they go through a program that they really understand what they're signing about, just like first-time home buyers. You're making a commitment, and the program should be centered on whether you're going to lose your home or not, so that they understand, instead of someone just coming by the home trying to say, oh, you drive by and you go, okay, let me stop here, because looking at this roof, this homeowner need a roof on the house. So you go knock on the door right quick, and you try to sell this program to an individual who has no idea, but probably end up saying yes. Oh yeah, you're right, I do need a roof on my home, but there's no educational component to helping that person really understand what they're getting ready to undertake. Because someone who's lived in their home 50 years or more, and elderly, which most programs prior on the elderly. I take my mom, who will be 99 years old this month. Someone come by, we have to tell my mother, you can't sign anything, you can't talk to anyone. We handled everything for her. No one can get that close, because we're the children, the 5 children, to make sure that everything is protected for her, because they call and stop by and want to sell us something. And that's what we have to avoid. So if we have a program, I'm for a program, we want to come back. I believe I always give someone a second chance, and the same in the business section as well. But also make sure that we can protect those who want to be protected, and no one wants to lose their home. So if we can come up with something that would can offer that in the interlocal agreement, for educational component to our seniors, I can support it. I do like a pilot to try for 2 years to be sure that PACE will come back and be good stewards to our county and those partners that they're working with. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion by Commissioner Kemp, second Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote.
Motion failed. 3 to 4. Commissioners Miller, Cameron Cepeda, Hagan, and Wostel voted no.
Okay, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda, you're next in the queue.
Yes, I was opposed to the former PACE program, but changes were made with the protective measures that strengthen consumer protection for the vulnerable in our community, and for that reason, I would support the PACE program.
All right, Commissioner Wostel.
Thank you, Mr. I'm going to quickly respond to some of the things that, and I don't know if Mr. Fasano is still on the line. If he is, great. If not, but I was surprised to hear some of his comments today on March the 4th, and I'll provide on March the 1st. I'll provide all these to the for the clerk for the record. I'll just quickly read in some of these to the record. March the 1st, to Florida politics. Mike Fasano. The only thing left, in my opinion, now to truly protect homeowners in Florida is to have the PACE program overseen by the CFO's office or another Florida government entity for accountability and oversight. Fasano said. March the 6th, to the Tampa Bay Times. Mike Fasano said, "This bill will help make sure people don't lose their homes," he said. Quote, "You've come from 0 to batting 750 overnight. Hopefully we can get into the 1,000 in the future," end quote. Finally, on July the 1st, Mike Fasano said, "Big thank you to Governor DeSantis for signing the PACE Consumer Protection Bill. The new law will go a long way protecting our homeowners of Florida when getting a PACE loan for their home," end quote. So I just find that as a stunning reversal of his position from only a couple of weeks ago, and so I don't understand now. And I do agree that the governor did a good job, and not only did the governor agree to these enhanced protections, and a lot of what Commissioner Myers said, except for the educational piece, which was a good one that could be accomplished in the interlocal agreement, a lot of those protections are already in this resolution, and I do believe that seniors need to have that additional education piece added to it. But everything here has the opportunity, if there's any additional protections on a subsequent motion, when we direct staff on the interlocal agreements to work them out, they could go and work with the agencies and the tax collector to hammer out any of the details so that they can move forward. And at this point, Mr. Chair, I do see that there's one more queue, but I'm going to move the previous question. It's gone on long enough.
Okay, that ends discussion. So we have a motion by Commissioner Wostel. Was there a motion in a second?
I have a point of order.
Hold on, Commissioner Kemp. You have to be recognized.
Has
Was there initial motion on the floor?
Oh, then perfect. Then I will make a substitute motion to move forward with the approve. There is a current motion on the floor.
No, it
Oh,
failed.
all of
It
hers
failed.
failed? Oh, okay. I apologize. I thought the last one prevailed. Then I will make a main motion to move forward with the resolution as presented with the changes and enhanced protections that are included in the packets that were provided to you and have been provided to the clerk or will be if they have not received, which includes the additional HVAC systems to include all forms of heat air pumps, which will be restricted to 10 years of financing. Shingle roofs will be restricted to 15 years of financing. That is my motion.
Second.
Okay, got a motion, Commissioner Wilson, second, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. Commissioner Kemp?
Point of clarification, so I'd like to ask the county attorney. So if this is moved forward, is this de facto approval of all the interlocal agreements that are in the packet with us today?
So, Commissioner Whistle, I think you addressed this earlier by saying that your intent is to have the staff negotiate and bring back the interlocals. I think what would need to happen with the resolution, though, if you look at Section 3, it would seemingly be approving the attached interlocals. So if we can just make it clear that you're approving the resolution, but you're not approving all of the interlocals.
No, it's my impression that was going to be the next motion.
That's going to be the next motion.
To address the interlocals. This is just the resolution.
And just one more, I just like to, before we do this, Commissioner Myers, I thought the educational component was very good, and I just would support a motion as well to include that.
Okay, Commissioner Myers?
I was going to ask Commissioner Wilson whether he wanted to include it in the motion, that's all.
If
The
you,
educational component.
I was going to include it in the subsequent motion for the interlocal agreement. It will be in there.
Okay.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 5-2. Commissioners Cohen and Kemp voted no.
All right, Commissioner Wessel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I did forget to mention one thing briefly. All of Mr. Fasano's complaints were about solar. That resolution specifically excludes solar from the program, so that cannot happen to citizens of Hillsborough County, because I do know that it's predatory. I will make a substitute.
No, new motion.
Yep. Oh, excuse me. Yes, I will make a subsequent main motion to direct county staff to work with the appropriate providers, county clerk, property appraiser, to implement a uniformed interlocal agreements to be agreed upon, at which point all interlocal agreements that need to be approved by staff would come back to the Hillsborough Board of County Commissioners for final approval.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Wessel, second. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Commissioner Miller. Commissioner Cohen?
I did not support the original motion, mainly because I thought that the inability to get the consumer protections from Palm Beach and Pasco attached to it, really, for me, that was a fatal flaw. What I will say, though, is that if this passes, these interlocal agreements will come back, and I will view them de novo, based on what is in there in terms of whether or not I might be willing to support it. If it can come back with consumer protections that meet some of the requirements that have been laid out today, I will be open to it. If not, I'm not going to be. I've said before that I think that there's a place for these programs, but I think that what we've done today is a bit premature. I hope that there'll be some federal rules between now and when this is taken up again. But if I vote for this with the interlocals, I don't view that as being inconsistent with the original vote, because at this point, it's about trying to make it as good as it can be with whatever it is going to be.
Okay, Commissioner Wilson.
Thanks. And I need to amend the original motion to just go ahead and include the seniors education program that we've all previously spoke about.
Okay, so the motion by Commissioner Wilstel, second Commissioner Miller, and that's for a uniform agreement with the amended language that he just stated. Commissioner Myers.
Could we add in the tax collectors to that to be included?
It was already included in the motion to coordinate with the tax collector, property appraiser, and providers in the industry.
Okay. So we got a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-1. Commissioners Kemp voted no.
Okay. Bonnie.
I think the last item are future discussion items.
All right. Do we have any future issues, board members? Going once, going twice. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.